Oh
No,
yeah,
I just mean like you sound whooped. That's
it's it's been
that's
one of
the
those
gig.
weeks, man. Look, honestly, uh, jet lag has kicked my butt to the next level.
I can
Um,
hear it. It
it's
is readily. I'm giving you the yes and
yeah,
is
yeah.
just
No, 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 no.
terrible
I'll,
improv.
I'll say this: if you see me dozing off halfway through the show, you know why. Not because you're not entertaining. It's just, um, we were in
That's
Korea
very kind of
for
you.
about 8 or 9 days, 8 days,
I mean, that's
and
that's a good run too, though. At least you had some time to kind of acclimate
oh,
to the
absolutely. Yeah, We
local
we
time, so
we
that's
were
good.
we adjusted fully to the local time. It was so fully that it was like staying up late and all of that. But there was a lot of things going on, obviously with Unpacked. But then, like, the night after we okay, wait, let me remember. How did we do this correctly? We did it on what time was it? Did we do it with when we did the podcast that day?
We did last Thursday. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we
Oh,
spent the
okay.
day.
It was Thursday, but it was okay. So it was Friday for
It
me.
was
Friday early
yeah, it was
morning
your
for me.
Friday morning, my
Okay,
Thursday night.
that's where I was like thinking. I know we did it. I
You know
did a
what I wish
different
we could
podcast than what you
you
did.
yeah, for real. We were on different shows. You were
Yeah.
in the high-tech futuristic Korea.
Oh
I
my
was
god.
in rural New Mexico. You know what I really wish we could do? And
What
for
is it?
everybody, welcome to another episode of
Oh yeah.
Bestofour Week.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really wish we could give up on time zones. We just had one time
One
and
time.
everybody just so like here in the United States, we get up at 3 p.m. and
Yeah.
work till, the end of our
Our days
day.
are just different. Yeah. So essentially, is our timing is slightly off, so we don't follow
Yeah,
the whole midnight whatever. But
I
it
really wish
whatever
we
it
just
is.
had like one universal planetary time, 24 hour, a 24-hour clock, so
Uh-huh.
it's 0 to 24,
Hmm.
and then we didn't have to like, are you 8 hours ahead or 7 hours behind, or how does this work?
Or
Uh,
my favorite where people will basically send like, hey, we have these two time meeting times, pick one, and it's always UTC plus one minus
I
five six
know,
dash
right?
four, and I'm like, oh my god, wouldn't it have been easier if you just put it in like, so yeah, no, no, time zones are a big issue, but the adjustment to them, especially when you like, it's
Yeah.
weird. I don't have the same issue when I go to the UK, when I go, Europe style, like eastward.
Hmm.
For some reason, Westwood, it hits me
Messes me up.
different. It's
My
very
Chinese
different.
trips were always so much more brutal to recover from.
Yeah, and it's much harder because maybe because we are losing, like in theory, when we were coming back, if everything was fine and I didn't and our flight wasn't canceled on Sunday, we would have actually been back in time because we leave at 11:30
Right.
Korea time on Sunday, and we land supposedly in LA at 10:30 a.m. that same day. Mind you, this was a second flight. I mean, we landed in San Francisco at 6 o'clock, so there was like a 5 hour gain
That's
just from the
yeah,
sheer of
not
time travel
not fun.
backwards. But
Yeah.
no, no, no. So
I
yeah,
think the last time I flew back from Shenzhen, I ended up in Canada, and they're like, "Okay, well, just stay at the gate." And
well, we ended up
if
we stayed in San Francisco for a day
oh,
because our
that's nice
flight.
though.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I mean, like
we got
the
bumped.
worst thing is no, because like international travel is already such a headache.
Yeah, yeah.
When one of the trips where I got bumped, I had to stay in Hong Kong
Oh,
for a
yeah.
night.
That's not that bad. Yeah.
So at least, I mean, yeah, it was okay. It was fine. They put me up in this like Soviet era dorm room. It was
Make
an
sure you never
adventure.
do this again. Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, like again, I have to say it was very practical, but they were very hospitable. Like they supplied meals and like
Yeah, yeah.
they gave me a
United did the
tram
same.
from.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. There was
It's great,
everything was
but just
covered.
the familiarity of like if I have to get bumped and if I have to spend a night somewhere, I would have preferred San Francisco, someplace a bit more familiar.
To a certain point, I'll say it was, yeah, obviously it was very familiar. I've been to San Francisco 1,000 times. It's not like uncommon. And what I loved about it is it was the same time zone. We weren't jumping more time zones beyond
Yeah,
that. It was a straight from Korea into San Francisco because for some reason LA doesn't have any flights going to Asia. We have more
it's
European style,
oh,
but
but I
just
mean, like, think about like the last couple trips we've both tried to take, and it's like I used to be able to fly out of Burbank, but
yeah.
now it's like if I fly out of Burbank, it's like 3 stops, and there's no way for me to get like an easy connecting flight. So anyway,
Yeah.
this has been your travel podcast for the week with TK and Juan.
With two grumpy old men that don't
I
know
hope
how to adjust
you've
to the
learned some
time
things.
zone difference.
Definitely use those frequent flyer miles. You don't want
Oh,
to
yes.
let those slide. Hey, we've got a great crew in here already.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm seeing Tech Boy and Steve and Umar, Gabaletta, Vince, Ron, Michael Corcoran, Greg, Bionic
And
Scoop. We've
Mr.
got
Barry
Michael
Johnston.
Peppertech.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I I do like Michael Peppertech has changed his handle. He's now discussing tech.
Hmm.
So that's pretty solid. Barry
I like the direction.
Johnson, Ghost Starscream. I always kind of want to try and break out more of like a Galvatron voice
Hmm.
whenever I see
Our
Starscream.
screen.
Like
Yeah,
I
yeah, no.
can't quite pull off that guttural Leonard Nimoy, but I really want to like impress upon him.
Oh, no,
Lord
no.
Starscream.
Star screen.
Um, we've got a full crew. So
No.
it's appropriate. You know,
Hmm.
normally our intros have nothing to do with anything because this is TK and I's time to catch up. We
It literally
literally
is. It is
no,
our time to catch up.
we literally start talking about our week, and then it's something we just randomly push go. And we figure we'll get around to whatever it is we were going to talk about. But this
Because
week,
tech happens. Yeah.
yeah, and that's life, right?
Hmm.
Life, tech happens. But this week, it is appropriate. We
Yeah.
are on topic because there's a reason TK was doing his jet-setting, globe-trotting international travel. And I don't want to steal your thunder. I know
Oh,
you're
no.
exhausted, but
I'm.
I feel like you need to do the intro for this part of our conversation because
it
I'm sure a lot of people in here will want to talk about this.
it's basically now almost completing an entire week with my two new friends, the Z Fold 5 and the
Ooh.
brand new. Hopefully, I'm holding the right one because it has like too many phones. Nope, that is not the right one. I was holding the Moto because I was working on a separate video, and of course the Z Flip 5. Both devices that are very well. Actually, I'll say this: both are new devices from Samsung, launched last week in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I had the amazing opportunity to not only be in Korea
You
but
were on
also attend it.
home turf.
We were
Samsung's
literally,
home turf to show
if
this stuff
if there
off.
was ever a home turf for a company, that was exactly where it was. And it's surprisingly enough, the amount of people that showed up for the event, the lines that
Mm-hmm.
were outside to try to get fans in there
Yeah.
were like massive lines. So
It
it's
has to
crazy
be
to see. Yeah, no, no,
totally different. Has to be
absolutely.
totally different in the country. To me,
Oh, wait.
my imagination of what you were describing, it sounded a lot like the classic days of iPhone reveals where people were camping outside
Oh my
Apple
God.
stores to get in.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
still, I mean, as much as we made fun of that, it still bothers me that
yeah.
we
Hmm.
kind of killed that whole vibe. Because I used to go to, at the time I had a good friend who was an AT&T PR rep, and
Hmm.
they would open an AT&T store early just for a bunch of us techies to come in and play with new iPhones. And then the local news would come in, and then we
Yeah.
would walk outside, and there'd be an Apple store, and there'd be all these people lining up, and like that actually had a really fun communal energy to it. And that's what I imagined when you
Yeah.
started telling me about what the vibe was like for an
It,
Unpacked, not
it
in
it
New
was leading
York.
up to exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a very different culturally eye-opening type of an experience because not only is it like I'll even say the presence in Seoul for Samsung is much bigger than even anywhere else. Like you still see iPhones, you still see other devices in there, and LG is still around, which surprisingly LG is still like, but more for electronics and TVs and so on, and actually phone service surprisingly in Korea. But it was very much a Samsung dominated market. You're driving down the street, you see billboards of Samsung devices and very very big presence for them leading up to Unpacked. Obviously there were signs at the airport. Everywhere you would go, things that we just don't see here. Even if there was an
Yeah.
Unpacked in the U.S., you rarely ever saw like a teaser commercial
No
saying,
one
"Hey,
cares. There are a couple billboards around New York or a couple
absolutely,
billboards
yeah,
around
yeah,
San
if
Francisco.
any,
That's all we
exactly."
get for Unpacked here. Yeah.
But it felt like Korea, or at least Seoul, was preparing for Unpacked from the moment we landed on. So we landed on Sunday. We got in a day early
Hmm.
than most people because we wanted to kind of. I guess I wanted to just kind of show up, relax a little bit, and then kind of
Yeah.
go.
Oh, it's the worst feeling when like you land on the day.
It's
That's
like
not
it'll be
thing.
go 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 because
Yeah.
Samsung had things for us on every single day, and it was basically morning, midday, and late afternoon type of things. But I'll say this. Everything led up to an amazing launch of both, well, actually, technically four products, right? We have the Z Fold
Mm-hmm.
5, the Z Flip 5, we have the Watch 6, and then we also have the Tab 9, S9. So the 9 series for the tabs, the Watch 6 series, 6 and 6 Classic, and then, of course, the Z Flip 5 and the Z Fold 5. Out of all four, I did get a chance to get hands on with all four, but I'd only unfortunately, well, actually, luckily Samsung was able to provide me with a couple of samples to be able to play around. So I'm able to actually say that I do have both devices. They're going to be coming out next week, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. I think pre-orders are open now, but
Yeah.
for me, in the last week or so, I put out a few videos, but I've been primarily trying to focus more about trying to like how to provide the best experience with these devices. So I have the video for tomorrow morning. I'm trying to shoot and get that out the door. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first 10 things to do with the Flip. I want to do one for the Fold.
Yeah.
And that's, basically when you start learning these little tricks and trying to see what's
Right.
the benefit there. So long story, extremely,
No,
extremely
I
short.
really appreciated that you took a very comprehensive approach. Like
Yeah,
number
don't
one, open the box. Number
exactly.
two,
Use the
take
phone.
out of the box.
Absolutely.
Number three, push the power button on the phone. I mean, like, it's refreshing because so few tech channels really
Yeah.
take that time. They really don't invest in that relationship with their audience. Like,
It,
I'm
it's
absolutely joking. This is the
it,
worst podcast bit
podcast
I've come up
every
with in a while.
it
So,
what I would say is it's a different style of what you approach. There's a lot of content already out there. I even pushed out a video showcasing the fact that I think a lot of people didn't notice that it has video output. That's a new feature that we got
yeah.
with it. But the last thing I want to mention about Korea before we kind of veer off into the other conversation
Sure.
is
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
a chance to check out Samsung's flagship store in Korea. Like to
Nice.
go to the home turf, but also go to the best store they have, which is a
Yeah.
4-story high store. That went crazy. Like that seriously
Don't
blew my mind. Like,
doesn't it still kind of kill you? Because I mean, like we've done European trips and we've
yeah, yeah,
done Asian trips.
absolutely.
Excuse me. I remember being able to like walk into a Huawei store and I was like a kid in a candy shop.
In Shenzhen, you could. It's like you can't miss them. You go into the mall. Literally,
So
it's right there.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to
I miss
see
like
all
having
those.
Microsoft stores here.
Oh my God.
There was never a huge crowd in there, but you could
Did
walk in
we?
and you could see all this cool tech and stuff.
Is the one in Fallbrook Mall, or is it Fallbrook or
I think
Topanga still
all
there?
of
They
I
closed
think
it, didn't
all of the
they?
Microsoft stores are closed except for maybe one location, and it's the same thing. Like Google has their Google Experience shop in New York, and you're
In
like,
they have a couple
there's
in
a
yeah.
there's a reason why a certain company seems so much more accessible, and it sucks, but like you have to put boots on the ground, and if you're not going to set up like kiosks in malls
Yeah.
like Amazon did. Remember when Amazon would set up like a whole living room in a
Hmm.
mall?
Yeah,
These
exactly.
are all of our Amazon products, and we don't get that anymore. So I'm very jealous, even though I think everybody in this chat totally knows why I was not invited to go to a Samsung Unpacked. I'm still super jealous that you at least got to see like what the home turf flavor of that
It
feels like. Because
it
that
was
to
a
me
very
is
big.
a lot more interesting than just Samsung is the default Android choice because they spend more
Uh,
money on carriers. On the home turf, it's got to be a lot more fun to play with.
Absolutely. I saw the most amount of foldable smartphones. I'm talking about Z Fold 4s and 3s on this trip. And I'm not talking about our friends in the tech business.
Yeah.
I'm talking about actual people using
No,
them.
they actually use them
Like,
out
like
there.
we were having dinner. I forgot, was it like the first night or the second night? And it was in this, that was the other thing. The hotel that they had us sitting in, it was on top of it's called the COEX Mall in Seoul. And it is a massive underground mall that you could literally get lost in by just walking the wrong way. And we had dinner there with my wife and my son and I. And literally the family next to us, the guy with his family with kids and all that, he has a fold, like an actual
Yeah.
Samsung, yeah, like a Z Fold 4, obviously. And it was like, crap, this thing actually does, people do buy foldables. Like at some point I was like, this makes sense, I guess. This is why they
Yeah.
keep focusing on it. But it was like there was a couple other things that they did as well as far as showcasing. We went into them to the Samsung. I guess they have a campus, kind of like Cupertino for Google and Apple. Samsung has their own campus,
Yeah.
and they showed us the history of Samsung devices, the history of the technology, like how they used to make
Nice.
refrigerators, microwaves, and all that good stuff. A lot of historical information to
Did,
understand
did they talk
Samsung.
about their years of? Oh, I don't want to. I don't want to be snarky. I have a 90-minute podcast talking about my personal history with Samsung. So if you'd like to hear me off the deep end on the personal, the professional, and the business concerns I have with Samsung as a brand, I'm not going to put TK on the spot.
It's a different
I'm
it's a
not going to
different
be
type of show.
that
Yeah, I know. I'm
d
with you.
bag. Exactly, different kind of show.
Different kind of show. Different kind of
Different
yeah.
kind of show.
But
You had fun. I'm not trying to take that from you right now.
and for that, I think I would say is it created a lot of. I think in general, I have a better appreciation of what Seoul and South Korea
Yeah.
has to offer as far as just the cultural and an
It's a place
understanding of
I've
how.
always wanted to visit.
And it's
It
a very
looks
different place that so
amazing.
Korea, although the proximity between Korea and Japan are very close and distance, like you could basically take a short flight over. The culture is so different.
Yeah.
Korea is way more Americanized than Japan is. In
Kind of
Japan, you need a
makes sense.
translator to go anywhere. In Korea, you probably don't. Like as long as you're not going into like out of town little mom and pop shops, almost
Yeah.
everybody speaks English. Uber works perfectly there, and things are relatively less expensive. Like
Yeah.
seriously, most of my rides were like 17, 18 bucks on Uber, and this is Uber using the cab services, where I'm used to paying so much more by just taking a
Sure.
ride across from one thing. So long story is,
So in taking cabs and cab rides, you took some cab rides to
quite a bit.
a whole tech conference showing off new devices. I'm sorry. I'm gonna hard pivot us because I know you're exhausted.
No, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
But also, we've both spent some time with Pixel Fold, and
Yes,
now you're ahead of the curve, getting some early hands-on time with
the
Z
Fold
Fold
5
and
and
Z
Philip. Yeah,
Flip. And we did get to speak very, very briefly. Like we had kind of a mini episode with you
yeah.
being in Korea and me being in New Mexico. But now that you've had them for a week and you've been spending a little bit more time with them, and I think we've already gotten a few. And I'm sorry, we are looking through the chat and everything.
No, no, please.
There seems to be a techie reaction where some of these announcements were kind of underwhelming.
Okay,
And in our little mini chat, for me, I feel like Samsung is making the Samsung is making the most progress on the Flip. The
absolutely.
Flip is appealing to consumers. It's selling in higher numbers. It represents the bulk of all folding phone sales,
Absolutely.
right? Like
I
it's got
think
the largest chunk of the pie graph all by itself.
by itself,
And it
exactly. The Flip is.
seems to me, and please correct me if you feel differently, because this is me looking from the outside, not being a Samsung fan. It seems to me like Samsung put their best foot forward on Z Flip 5. Is that something you would maybe
If we
agree
had to
with?
if we compared both, yes, the Fold and the Flip, I feel like the Flip 5 got the
But I mean, for
best
this
of
entire
the.
unpacked, we've got Fold, Flip, Tablet, and Watch. And to me, it seems like the product that got the most attention with the most feature year-over-year refinement was Z Flip.
Oh, absolutely.
But you've been using them, so I don't want to speak for you.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'll say I'll be very frank. I have this. I still have the Z Fold 4. And I still have my Z Flip 4, which full disclosure, I am actually trading in this one. I'm actually going to trade this in and get myself a Z Flip 5 for myself because the devices that I have from Samsung are loaners, as you can imagine. The one thing I will say is I think we had the same experience somewhat last year, except this year is very much a step forward in that direction. The 4 and the 5 on the Fold, very similar, very organically similar experience. There's some improvements, obviously, with the 8 Gen 2 over the last processor, the ISP. The images do look a little bit better. Processing is better in here. But if you're a Z Flip, if you're a Fold 4 user, it's not as much of a like, hey, you should definitely go for the 5. But if you're a
Because
Z
the
Flip
Z
anything,
Fold, sorry, just to Z Fold 4 had the 8 Plus Gen 1.
it was the 8 Plus Gen 1 on
Okay,
it that was released late last year. And
this
this
is
year,
still an iterative improvement, but it's not as bad a performer as the 8 Gen was.
Exactly.
8 Gen 1 was in the S22. So I just
Exactly.
wanted to make sure I
from
was
from a
on point.
performance standpoint, yeah, this is why when I say like there is benefits from having the new SoC in there, but it's not this earth shattering. I have to flip it. No pun intended, flipping over from one to the other. I will say anybody else from earlier generations, if you have like the one, two, maybe the three, and you're looking to getting a new one, obviously,
Hmm.
if unless you get a really good deal on a four, the five makes perfect sense if you're looking to upgrade.
Right.
Where the flip comes in and basically just gets everything out the door in there is not only did they finally accommodate a bigger display, they gave us a better display outside on the outside, so we can actually finally use things and do things with it. During Unpacked, they even did a skit, and I forgot the name of the actress that was in there, where they were sitting, and I say this skit because in reality, it is a skit. It's a pre-rehearsed demo of
Samsung
a
has
show.
always wanted Unpacked to be like a Broadway show. I
A,
mean,
a
remember when
little,
they actually put on a musical? They've
yeah.
always wanted that kind of spectacle.
The events always get. I mean, I was there in February, and it this felt grand, even more grand
Right.
than February because they did it. I'll say this, Mary. This was the last time you and I were actually at an Unpack together in Barcelona. Well, because
Yes.
we've been to many
Yeah,
events,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
know
yeah.
this one we were together.
For sure.
So in Barcelona, if you remember how they used to do Unpack there, where there was a center stage, right? And then you had
Hmm.
the journalists all around the center stage, and then they had like things coming down with lighting and all that. That's how this was set up.
It's futuristic theater in the round.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you were never in a situation where you were all like the presenter always had to keep turning around. And of course, to top it off, Trisha Hershberger, the geek queen of all was there, and of course, all of our friends in the tech were there. So to kind of company, bring it together. But the Flip Five definitely got the best improvements. The processor, the display, the external display, the video out for me are big
It
things,
feels
and
like Samsung had a pretty good idea of where Motorola was going to go
I
as their
yes,
chief. I think
yeah.
right now Samsung is looking at Moto as one of their chief competitors, especially for the North American market.
And
And when it comes to flip style phones, I think a lot of folks really appreciated the kind of updates that
so,
Moto brought to the
and I
table,
feel
and
like
it
it
looked
it,
like
it
Z
brings
Flip was
is
cut from very similar cloth. Yeah.
oh no, no, absolutely. There's a few things, and I think I'm going to focus on some of those a little bit after I'm done with the I call them the more mechanical and thoughtful, the getting ready to use the device, how to enjoy it and stuff like that. I'm not pushing a review on the devices till at least maybe late last week, next week or so,
Hmm.
till I really get a good vibe with them. But the
Well, you got to hurry up though because the search viability is almost gone now.
oh,
So it's
absolutely.
pretty much a dead
I
topic.
don't
Google
my video.
Analytics already says that it's over. So I don't think anyone cares.
For me,
So
I found over the years that my reviews don't do the best. My tips and tricks and my hands-on, those are the ones that do the better for me.
I'm in
So
the
those
same
are the
boat.
things
Yeah.
that's the only reason why I'm not even, to me, like even if I don't do a review, I still would be, I feel like I did the job. But this is the one year I probably would say if you have any earlier generation of the Z Flip and you like what Samsung is doing, and I say that specifically because if you're not familiar with Moto and maybe that doesn't appeal to you, then this would be the year to flip it over there because the trade-in values are somewhat, again, Samsung's going back to what they used to do with the numbers, but essentially for $50 from the four to the five is crazy not to go for it. It literally cost me $50 plus tax to upgrade from the four to the five, and I could not pass that opportunity up. So the improvements are very well worth it. The battery life is very nice. The performance is really good, and there's a couple of ways of adding any app that you want on the external display,
Hmm.
causing you almost never to open it up.
Nice.
And USB-C audio works when the phone is closed. USB-C audio and video work when the phone is open.
Very nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things to say, but again, you have to like the form factor. The flip has to make sense to you. And ever
Yeah.
since the Razor, I've been enjoying more using the new styles of flip. I don't have to worry about opening it. Like this is the Razor, and you can see
Hmm.
like it's a large display, and Samsung pretty much in the same boat, almost the same footprint. Although now I'm not thinking about it, they're about the same weight. Or am I looking at the wrong? No, okay. Like
I'm
wait,
I'm
TK.
I feel again that we've been pretty on the pulse looking at like what competition has looked like,
I want to
and
see
like
the
the
new
most
Razor
recent
though,
updates
the
to
new
Dex.
version. Oh yeah, no, definitely.
No, I was just gonna say the most recent updates to Dex. I feel we owe Motorola a little
Hmm.
thumbs up because they've still been pushing this idea, and I don't think Samsung would just have done it on their own
Yeah.
if Moto hadn't started getting a little positive buzz. And it's the same thing for the Moto Razor. And like you
Hmm.
were saying, we're still waiting out one other Razor. I feel it was smart of Motorola to kind of stagger them, where
Yeah.
you get some noise first before, and people are kind of like, "Oh, this looks good, and this is a really good competitor against the Z Flip 4." and now the Z Flip 5 is out, and now you get to return to that conversation with the other Razr that Moto is looking to launch internationally.
Yeah.
I hate to do this. I
No.
actually did look up the Google Trends on Z Fold 5 and Z Flip 5 as search terms,
Yeah.
and they both peaked between July 26th and July 27th,
Yeah.
and then bottomed out on July 30th. They're actually kind of climbing back up again.
They'll
More
claim,
recently,
yeah, as we get closer to people getting their devices, and I
actually
think
getting their
that's
hands on them.
that, and then I
But
think that's what happens. The moment that
but
happens, it just cliff dives. There's a cliff
but
dive
the
goes right.
rise in search is not going to reach that peak again. It's
No,
very upsetting how I mean, I'm not a Samsung fan.
no, no, I'm with
I'm
you.
obviously taking no joy in this at all. So please don't think that the smile on my face has anything to do with a certain trend in search or anything like that. Perish the thought.
Yeah, yeah,
But I always I said this at the end of my Monday morning podcast, and I feel you'd agree with me on the sentiment at least, is that platforms like Google and platforms like YouTube and other social media sites kill this topic before real people have had a chance to play. And that's not right. I
yeah.
don't like Samsung. The conversation hasn't started yet on Z Fold 5 and Z Flip 5. And YouTube as a platform is already crushing it because it's no longer the trendy topic. It's not the topical conversation point where the surge of interest peaked right at the announcement. Well, it's just not interesting anymore. We can't send that out to all of your subscribers. They probably won't even care, as they already talked about it. They already saw
It's
a
a
channel with millions of subscribers show it off and read the specs to you. So there's nothing else to do. And this isn't us. This
no.
isn't the creators that are trying to host these conversations. It's YouTube. It's an algorithm that sorts your content for you. And we want to talk about this stuff more, but unless it proves popular, and I've got a trend line that's pointing down, and pointing down trend lines are bad.
Oh no, no,
You can't
absolutely.
talk about trending down lines. So it's very frustrating where I never really feel we get the lived in experience from people who actually put their own money on it
Yep.
and actually lived with it. I'd
And
be
that
really interested to see more follow up videos on like Z Fold 3s right now as we get ready for what would be a good kind of upgrade window at that 2 year point.
exactly, and that's one of the things for me that I always like when I was up to the point I got the Z Fold 5. I was using the Z Fold 4. Actually, I traveled with that when I switched over to that one to kind of go back and see how it has been. How has it been basically as far as, it has the software updates been doing well? Did we get all the features that we want? Which version of Android we're going to be on? There was a lot of good things coming on from it, and that's the reason why when I switched from the 4 to the 5, I didn't feel as much on the Fold as much as I got with the Flip. The Flip had the majority of the improvements, and I feel like although the trend line may be trending down, I think it's once, and at least the way I've seen it over the years, there's a spike right around the launch, but because there's a delay when devices get there, there's usually a somewhat of a trend down, but it peaks a little bit back up, not as high as initial, because obviously there's much higher interest at the time when nobody knows about the details. But it is as people start getting their devices, they start searching YouTube for things. So the moment that comes up, I feel like the trend that goes up a little bit for a short amount of time, like a day or two, and then again, you're right, it's not at the same level, and it's not right to just basically get the phone and just run and gun it and try to just push out things just for the
No, no,
sake
no.
of thing.
I saw someone who had like 30 million subscribers on YouTube, and they read all the specs and then gave it a verdict, and it's pretty much conversation over. I mean, what
There
else
is
could you
no,
say?
there's a few articles, there's a few videos as well that have already kind of called it in with a phone that hasn't been out for literally, and I'm almost tempted, 100% sure that almost nobody had the phones prior to the event. I'm sure there's a
Oh,
few
that's
outlets
not
probably.
true. You know that there were
Some
a
do.
bunch of those major techies that have
Absolutely.
had
No,
it
no, no,
for
no.
a while.
CNET, Verge, and I'm sure Marquez has been playing with it for the last 6 months. You know what I mean? Like there are certain people at a certain level. I'm referring to more about the bulk of the media, the bulk of the creators that had it.
Yeah,
We didn't have devices prior to the event. We had access to them. We had a chance to play with them.
sure.
But I feel like, headliney, kind of catchy little things will come out. But the true followers, the people that do end up buying these devices that look up content, I hope that they'll be able to find some of the, I like to call them evergreen videos, but those are the videos that usually do better for me. So the tips and
Yeah.
tricks in how to get better battery life, how to get better performance, better
Sure.
pictures. But also, I feel like people would like to see what the Razor and the Fold and the Flip do. I mean, how do they stack up to
Yeah.
each other, being that they're so close to each other in many ways? And in certain
Hmm.
aspects, I feel like Razor did a much better job, and I feel like in certain aspects, I feel like Samsung did a better job. We'll have to keep that going there. But yeah, for sure. Oh,
Well,
Gabriella is
the
still using it.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Gabaletta still has his Z Fold 3. Yes, the Snapdragon 888 is still a spicy SoC, but plenty powerful to run anything I need on it.
Oh
And
yeah, that
to go
was.
Starscream, and someone else was asking about this too. I'm sorry, I've missed in the chat who else brought it up. But there were some durability tests. So Ghost
Yeah.
Starscream has a comment here. According to Ice Universe, folding screens can only handle 200,000 folds at above 25 degrees Celsius,
Oh man,
150,000 folds above 60 degrees Celsius,
we're gonna have a
and
hard time.
30,000 folds at negative 20 degrees Celsius, which has me worried on the longevity of the plastic display. So, I've spent precious little time with Z Flips and Z Folds. Plastic screens have wigged me out. And I
Yeah.
road tripped with the Pixel Fold. And the
Oh, that's
Pixel
true.
Fold is a champ. This is
Nice.
the closest I've used for a North American device that could really make me reconsider my love affair with the Surface Duo. It's the
Mm-hmm.
right form factor, the
Yep.
hinge is in the right orientation. They've managed to shave some of the dimensions down so it's a bit more manageable as it's a better phone.
Yeah.
I still think the Surface Duo is a better tablet,
Mm-hmm.
but the Pixel Fold is a better phone. So if it's in your pocket, you want it to be a good phone. I totally
Absolutely.
understand that. Plastic screens wigging me out. We were
It.
driving through the desert. It's
Yeah.
sandy, it's dusty, it's rocky. I still don't have a good case on it, but really what I'm concerned about is, hey, I'm using it out and about. I've got to open it, do something. I want to use that bigger screen. And then when I close it, I am consciously thinking about the operation of the phone. And that weirds me out in ways where I never thought about, snapping my Duo shut. I'm actively considering the operation of the Pixel Fold. So you've been using Z Folds and Z Flips for a lot longer. I mean, a lot more robustly, a lot more in depth than I
Yeah.
have.
No. No.
What are some of your experiences? Like, do you think if we can hit 100,000 openings and closings, is that enough? Is that enough to warrant the extra fragility and the consideration of the operation, or do you think that this is something that we'll be able to material science our way out of in future generations?
I hope that the latter part actually does materialize in the future generational upgrades of the technology itself. In the years that I've had foldables and flip phones and generational upgrades, I've had one phone fail on me, and it not entirely fail, but start having issues with the display, and that was the N2 Flip from Oppo from last year, and it was nothing to do with Oppo's technology and so on. I actually, unfortunately, a piece of dirt, I forgot how, but it got in there, and as I was snapping it shut, it did damage my display slightly on the top right. It's an it is something that we always have to be aware of, especially with folding displays. You should never at any point assume that everything is great and you should be able to close it great. You should always be
Right.
aware when you're closing it. And with the folds, I haven't had any issues overall as far as I've had them generationally, but I haven't kept them for more than a year. That would be the other thing I have to make statement of. I've kept them for generally about a generational upgrade, and I typically trade one in to get the next one back. The
Right.
4 held very nicely. The Flip 4 held very nicely. I know one friend of mine that lives in San Francisco that has a Z Flip 3 where the screen protector that they have in there peeled off in the center section where the display
Yeah.
folds on its own. And
Really, really common. Yeah.
yeah, and but she still uses it like a champ. So that never bothered her enough. I don't know how, because that would drive me up the wall. But that would be the only time I've ever seen kind of like that technology fail. The concern that we're going with right now is more devices are trying to be more flat, right? So there's a plus and minus. You don't want it to have a gap because then you have things kind of going in. But then if it's a total flat and you don't see that something got in there by coincidence and you're snapping it, you could potentially puncture. So
Yeah.
you have to be aware of it. Yeah, it's a fragile piece of tech. One of the things I'll say, the fact that the displays are much bigger on the flips now requires us to use the actual device opened a lot less. That could
Yeah.
help us having a better longevity from the opening. Because if you're not having to open it up to answer calls, to respond to messages, to open maybe general apps, open up,
Same.
watch a video, YouTube, you're not likely to get things into it. And the actual hinge on this are actually very nice. I will say that if you get the 5 fold or the 5 flip, don't try using Z Fold 4 or Z Fold or Z Flip 4 cases. They create a gap artificially because they're not designed for the new hinge. That's the other one of the concerns, because I was the first day I got them, I didn't have cases, so I had to put my Z Flip 4 case on it, and it kept the phone open. It never let it flat close all the time. So it was like a little weird, but it's hard.
Because I feel similarly about the Pixel Fold
Hmm.
having a much more usable, kind of traditional. What does it work out to? Something like 15:9. It's not quite the old aspect ratio that we used to have on
Yeah.
our phones, but it again, it's why I liked the Surface Duo so much. It was a little squarer, but to me, that was a more usable
What was
single
it?
screen experience.
Exactly. It's
And
like
and and
two
I
single displays side by side. Yeah.
and I don't need to open the Pixel Fold often when I'm out and about, but it is a littler phone screen, and there are times where it's like, okay, I just want. So I feel like a lot of people in this chat will appreciate how fun this little moment was. We're driving through Arizona and we're planning out our stops. Like, we've been making this drive since we were in our Marie and I, even independent of each other, we've had like family and experiences between New Mexico and California. And so we had very strong opinions when we got together. Like, no, you don't want to stop at Needles. You got to stop at Kingman. Oh, you don't want to do this. Like, you've mapped out all of like your favorite, and not only your favorite cities to stop in, but like your favorite gas stations. We've been going to one Chevron in Flagstaff for 20 years, right? Woody's, we know Woody's. So we're in Kingman, and we're sitting at a little like a cafe table, and
Hmm.
I'm just wanting to map out our next couple stops and like where we're gonna eat and stuff like that. So I've got the Pixel Fold, and I open it up, and there's a family of people traveling next to us, and the dad is like the most conspicuously not trying to look at what I just did with the phone at the table sitting next to me.
Honey,
And
did he just slice his phone open? Yes, he
he
did.
nudges his son, but also does the like look but don't look thing. And I've got both of them kind of looking over my shoulder as I've got Google Maps. I'm not even doing anything crazy. I just have Google Maps open on the inside display. And I haven't had a lot of that experience recently. Like,
Hmm.
I gotta look like that doing like opening up a V50 one time,
Yeah.
where someone just thought like I had a case, like a screen protector case, and then part of it lit up, and I had a lady sitting next to me on a flight, and she's like, "Can you get that case for any phone?" And I'm like, "No, you can't."
They
so
tried. They
so
they tried making one at the CES, but that project failed. But yes, no, I
right.
know. Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's like those individual moments I still really appreciate. On the go, it's a phone, and you're like, okay, so I'm doing
And
stuff.
you want
I'm
it to
I'm
be, yeah, you want
I'm
it to do
running and
phone
gunning.
things.
It's just a
Yep.
regular phone. I totally get it. And then when I sit down and I can really hold it and look at it and manage it, then it can become a tablet and it's a little safer to use. But I didn't have that same careful, like, I didn't have the feeling that I needed to be that careful with the duos. Like, I could be out and around at a supermarket and just be like, okay, let me just flip this open, because like the natural action of turning it on was just opening
It's
that
also, you
thing.
got glass on glass, which makes
And it
it
was
much.
glass on glass, exactly.
Yeah,
So
the
if you
inner and
close
external
it, and
material
so
is the
like
same.
I just did it now. I'm taking pains to clean this thing with almost every use, and yet I can open it now. And if I turn the screen, I don't think you'll be able to see this on camera, but I can see all of the little bits of dust and lint, and there's like a little piece of grit in that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
screen protector trench, and you're like, I'm getting so OCD about
that part
how
gets
I'm thinking about the foldable.
you'll feel better, not better. You'll feel less. You'll be less concerned about that later as time goes on because becomes more of the norm. There's no way to stop it. There is no way to
Yeah.
keep that internal display lint free or fuzz free because regardless of what you're doing, unless you have have it sealed in a bag, when it's in your pocket, things are going to go in. These are like
Yeah.
micro fibers and so on. It will go in. It's the worry that where there is that little piece of sand or whatever harder material get in there that you didn't
Yeah.
notice how it got in
Well,
there.
as the father of an adventurous 7-year-old, I routinely make it back home with interesting rocks in my pockets.
Yeah.
And
Oh
guess what I
yeah.
now can't put my phone in is the same pocket that had like shale in it.
Or shells
Daddy,
or
I found
pieces.
granite. Can you hold on to
Exactly.
this? We found petrified wood. I had pockets full of petrified wood out in rural New Mexico. Guess what I can't put my phone in anymore?
We
My
we need we need
pockets.
we need to get you a man purse, like a sling.
I have one for biking, and I should have brought it on the trip. It could have been my rock
Oh, actually, that would
satchel.
be yeah. That's one thing I did actually that I enjoyed when I was in Korea. I brought my sling with me where I had my
Yeah, that's
phones
a
in
good
there, so
call.
that I didn't because oh my god, yeah, the heat, the humidity in there, my god, it was just it was crazy, man. Every single day, it was so hot. The moment you get out of the hotel anywhere, it was just like a wave of water kind of hits you. Just you were in
Yeah,
constant humidity.
yeah. It's like walking through soup.
Yeah, but you feel it though. Like you walk out and you're like, "What just hit me?" And it makes everything worse. We didn't get as much rain as we thought it was going to be because in the forecast it was supposed to be like raining the whole week. We got some days where it was good sun, and overall the experience was nice. But we both got heat. We have heat here back home. We have heat in New Mexico. Heat everywhere. Try to stay as cool as you can. And you're right. Tech, we need to start talking, maybe potentially also understanding is how does tech tech is designed to work in a specific window of temperature scale. It's
Yeah.
not intended to I mean, they will work, but like an example would be, battery performance drops when you're
Oh
in
yeah.
higher temperatures.
Well,
The
and think
batteries don't
about
cool.
all of the screen. We used to talk about this a lot more, and screens got better.
Yeah.
And I feel like folding phones are reintroducing us to some of those durability and lifestyle conversations that we started to take for granted. And this isn't on Samsung. I really feel this is genuinely an oversight by every company that is currently making a folding plastic device. I don't feel they're doing a good job of reintroducing these conversations to their consumers, to their customers.
Yeah.
The Honor foldable, on their website, they show someone using their version of like a propped up mode camera auto capture with a surfer running at the beach. And I feel that is grossly irresponsible. I was
Yeah.
in a sit down onboarding with a Google representative, and I was asking them questions about like
Can I take
what
this
are
to the
some of
beach?
the limits of
Yeah.
this device? You want me to use it and be an influencer and show it off. If I don't understand what the perceived limits might be, and Google has to have done more testing on this than I have,
Of course.
then my experiences are going to be tiny little baby steps. I'm going to be doing tiny little things to see how far the phone might survive, but I'm not the kind of person who goes immediately to destroying a phone because that's not instructive. If you try to break a phone, you will break the phone.
Oh yeah. No,
And
absolutely.
folding phones, we know they are inherently more fragile. And so I think they were taking it more as like me criticizing, but really it's on Google to lead the conversation with their customers. It's on Samsung, it's on Xiaomi, it's on Oppo, it's on OnePlus when OnePlus can finally launch their foldable. It is
Yeah. No,
not
no,
fair
exactly.
to put this on consumers and then say like, "Oh, I guess you shouldn't have done that," because we don't know. We genuinely don't know what the expectations are on durability. And I feel every company has evaded that conversation. And I think that is very irresponsible with devices that are this
No, no, and
expensive.
we typically will get like an IP rating or some type of configuration about ingress protections and so on. But you're right. Like to a certain point, if there was a company, if there was a person that was okay, if there was somebody that's responsible for providing us maybe even a video, short video saying like, do this, don't do that type of a situation. Like this is what you're okay doing, this is what you're not okay doing, and then link into it in the instruction or in the setup process.
Yeah.
That would be much more beneficial for users down the road. Also, in many ways, it'll make people feel more comfortable understanding that the company has put in the time to test it out, and at least give you a general understanding of if you don't cross that line, you're in better.
Their QA testing, they've got to be sacrificing dozens of units a day.
Oh, absolutely.
On these assembly lines, and yet that information, that's very valuable data to help craft the consumer expectation on how far they can take their gadget. Because I was like, so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to a Google PR public relations rep.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like, I don't know how to show this off. Like, obviously, I'm not going to take this thing down to the beach and like get salt water on it. And like everybody on the call is kind of like, oh yeah, obviously, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, so we get that. Why can't you tell me what, like, I live in a dusty, rocky, kind of technical hiking suburb. Am I taking this out on a bike trail? Is the phone, do you have expectations that the phone would, like, do well in those kinds of locations? And then it was kind of like crickets. And you're like, I'm not attacking. Like, I can't show the product if I can't take it out and use it. And if you're telling me that, like, the only place you want me to take it out and use it is, like, get an Instagram selfie at Starbucks, I can't make a product recommendation. $2,000 for your Starbucks selfie machine that uses flex mode. Like, that's not a purchase. That's not something that people should buy. But
you need
I
to
know
have a
that's
good.
not it. I know that it is more durable than that. We've had people in here talking about like, hey, I dropped my Z Fold and blah, 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 blah. Totally get it. But what is the manufacturer's expectation on durability and that kind of daily lifestyle abuse? Because there's got to be a limit, and they have to have studied what happens to this thing when you chuck it in a backpack or carry it in a purse, and like all those little lifestyle things that destroy our phones, but they won't share that data with us.
And I, yeah, you're right. And this isn't just Samsung. This is even other companies that put it out, and it behooves us to not portray the product, because it also kind of tells you sometimes that it's typically probably a different department that did the PR material and the advertising than it is the actual technical side, because they consulted the technical side. The technical side would have been like, never put it close to water. This is not a water. This especially not salt water of all things.
But even there's someone in marketing going, hey, what would be a cool example of showing an auto camera feature? I don't know. What about like a surfer running by the camera? Hey, yeah, that's great.
Without a case sitting on the beach. Yeah, no, I know.
You should never do that.
No,
don't do that. There's one person in the world who is gonna buy an Honor Foldable, and somehow they're gonna see this part of our podcast, and we can only save this one person because all the other people buying Honor Foldables are not gonna watch our podcast. I think your name is Jeff. Jeff, don't take your Honor Foldable out to the beach, even though the Honor website showed a surfer using it that way. You'll be so much happier that you listen to us. Love, Juan, and TK.
Absolutely. And that's how we got Juan's freezing. No, I'm just kidding. You're right.
Right, and then my internet connection crashes.
That would be a perfect time for the thing as you had that
best podcasting ever.
Exactly.
So this week, last week my levels were way too low and no one told me. I think just TK thought it was funny that no one could hear me.
No, TK, seriously, I could hear you. Just that StreamYard for some reason was just on the other side.
Your mic gain is now starting to sizzle on my end. We've had a few comments that you're like way louder than me. I think it's fine that you're louder than me, but you're clipping. And so you should probably just turn down your gain.
I just dropped it. I dropped it about maybe 15-20%. Hopefully it's better.
We'll see if that sounds better. We'll get into the conversation. That one I could hear. Before, I couldn't hear any difference because, again, we can't hear what you hear. So if there are issues with the audio, as long as we can hear each other, we're just going to
StreamYard needs to... and I think that's what it was.
Notes on what's wrong.
I could hear you very well last week. There was no issues. But it was like
I
when
sounded
everybody was
great. I
thought,
was self-monitoring, but I was self-monitoring on my own loop. So like, I sounded awesome. I was like, oh, well, this guy's got a sexy voice, but no one could hear it because
nobody could do
StreamYard. So
because insert StreamYard. No, no, no. I'm with you. I'm with you. And then I think we should have a line. It's almost like having a line out just to be able to kind of monitor the audio. Like, how does this sound? Like you switch inputs on like a button on the screen where it says, hey, this is how I sound like on the stream, as opposed to this is how I sound like in stream, which is our own little bubble. But you know what?
so
Speaking of which, there's
yeah,
there's going to be content. There's going to be more things coming up on the Fold and the
for
Flip,
sure.
and searchability. Honestly, I still think the Flip will have a much longer longevity, especially with
It's the
marketing push.
consumer-focused device, and
But I
Samsung is making more progress on that front.
absolutely, and I think they're still going to be pushing it as time goes on more with content and people looking for it. So this is why I'm kind of like my
Yeah.
first tips and tricks video is going straight for the Flip. I'll do the
My
Fold.
aunt has been in iPhone land for I think around 8 or 9 years,
Hmm.
and I just got a text from her on our drive back. Hey, so I saw this commercial for a Samsung phone that folds in half. So
Oh,
there is
there.
some
Oh, no,
good
no.
interest with savvy marketing to bring people sort of into an idea of what a folding phone can be. And I think the form factor that is most accessible. We've said this on so many
No,
podcasts
no, no, no,
before now,
absolutely. This is yeah,
but
we're
it's so
brokenrecord.com
much
here.
more accessible, and people understand the skinny phone form factor when it's open, and that it's just
Exactly.
novel that it closes in half. And I
Well,
think people are
and
having a harder time with the mini
yeah,
tablet that turns into a phone.
and I think to Samsung's point, I feel like they didn't. This is probably why they didn't do that much. So there are some contests. I personally wasn't part of that conversation, but I know other creators that were invited, and I think started sharing some of that content online. There are other form factors for the Fold that are in development with Samsung. One that even includes an kind of like a note experience where the pen actually goes inside of the foldable as opposed to having it as part of a case. A wider display, somewhat similar to what you have with the Pixel Fold. So Samsung is looking into other form factors. It just for for the generational upgrade that we have from the 4 to the 5, the improvement with the processor was, I think, the biggest thing that they're pushing for. Although we are not seeing an 8 Plus Gen 2, the 8 Gen 2 seems to be basically carrying us for most of the year. Qualcomm's having their summit in October. That's a few months from now. I really don't think there's enough time for the Plus version to come out. But long story short,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have to see how these devices kind of carry. There is going to be more push for the Flip, but that's expected. I think that's, like you said, it's the most, uh, I want to say, reachable, attainable type of a device at $1,000. I think
Yeah.
Motorola did a great job to keep the price of the Flip 5 at 1,000. Because in some markets, the price on the Flip went up, and the US we didn't. So I'm happy that
Mm-hmm.
actually it helps the consumer to be able to make
Again,
a
I
better
think
decision.
Moto's going to come in and clean house with
Oh,
Samsung raising prices in so many markets, and they have an option that will be less expensive.
the Razer 40 Ultra is the international version of what we have, and yes, you're right.
Sure.
It also has actually some
Just a
benefits to what we
Razor
have.
40, I think is gonna get a lot of people on
Yeah.
board. Just again, if you're telling me that the flip style phone is the statement phone, then you also this isn't the high performance like laptop replacement computing device in your pocket.
The Fold still, I feel like to a certain point. I mean, I think I don't think they saw that there was any need to change much about it. We didn't get a better we didn't get any new sensors or anything. I mean, for the most part,
No.
it's very much a similar
Nah.
experience
Yeah.
with a generational improvement. I think I'll say this: the accessories for the Fold 5 are definitely nicer. The fact that this case has an actual S Pen connected to the back of it, and it's still
Yeah.
very thin.
Again, it's real nice that they figured that out
Yeah,
finally, because their last solution for S Pen was not
it,
great.
it was a solution that I think almost everybody switched back for the kickstand part of the case because it adds too much
No,
bulk
no
to the
one
phone.
used it. Don't make it so like, oh, people switch back because of this. And you're like, no,
Oh
it was
no,
a terrible case. It was just objectively a bad case, and people tried to make do with the first party case that was terrible.
yeah, and I don't have that case on this.
That's all it
I have one of those
was.
more rugged cases, but yeah, no. So we'll see more on that. But the one thing I did want to say, obviously, that you and I finally we got a chance to sync up on something again. Every once in a
Yeah.
while, we launch something that kind of works together. So the if you didn't notice it, yesterday morning we had a station show up on our channels.
Station.
Yes, the Rokid station, bringing you all the channels and
Now,
all the
did
content
did
you want
you
to
get the
watch.
joke that I put? Because I watched your video. I loved your video.
I
I hope you
appreciate it.
watched mine. Did you get the joke that I put in at the end of my video?
No, which one?
So I put in Bill and Ted,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the weird aliens that helped them build their robot Bill and Ted's,
Hmm.
that alien's name is Station. And the entire
Oh,
movie, they're just randomly, for no good reason, they're just
they kept
randomly
saying
saying
station.
Station. And there's like
I,
an interview with the guy who, the people
I
who
never knew.
produced
Okay.
the Bill and Ted movie, and they're just like, it was just a weird thing that they thought would be fun for them to say. And so then they made a character out of this joke. And so
They
there's the clip at the end of Bill and Ted just station, and you're like, so I had to put that in here because it's the Rokid
I
station,
okay. I didn't get the
bro.
reference, but I enjoyed
Well,
the
okay,
little bit sound
because
clip. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. No, I know. It's been a while. The last Bill and Ted I watched was the remake, and I haven't had a chance to watch the
oh,
original.
the third one, not
The
not the
third one, yeah,
remake. It's kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
a soft reboot, but yeah,
Uh,
the conclusion of the Bill and Ted saga
it's
30 years
it's
later.
their handoff to their kids in case they ever wanted to make another series. But yeah,
Sure.
you're right. They brought him back, and it was a fun movie to watch.
So
But speaking, yeah,
Juan's
sorry.
terrible comedy in his videos notwithstanding, you've been doing some Android TV augmented reality. Have you been enjoying it?
So I'll say this first and foremost. I am very jealous that you have a very unique experience to be able to play with two different solutions. Because last week we talked about one. Obviously, we couldn't talk about the second one yet, and then the internet breaks right there. So yes, no, the Rocket Station for me has been like it's a weird thing. Like initially when I first heard about it, when they first approached me and with the concept of it, I thought I was like, okay, well, most of my phones have all of this solution. I can just mirror my display. I can do everything I want.
Sure.
And then once I got the station and I started using it and actually trying
Mm-hmm.
to use it in more of just that standalone entertainment
Oh,
on the
TK, we,
go.
we can just air our dirty laundry. TK and
Yeah.
I had a whole conversation like, I'm not sure I get it. It's an
Oh
Android
no,
TV.
that's what I said
It's a
initially
Chromecast.
when
I
exactly.
don't get it. We
It's
we,
like
we both stumbled on this idea. So it's just sending. We should explain
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
Rokid
Yeah.
station, and especially for people on the audio version of our podcast. We actually
We're
do get listens on this terrible audio podcast, and I apologize.
no.
So Rokid Station is a little puck. I would say it's just slightly larger than like an iPod Classic ish.
Just about, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
About
the size.
about
It's the size of a small power bank. I'll probably say that it's more. If it
okay.
was
I'll
it
give
was a
you that.
rectangular power
Because
bank,
I
because
think
that's how I feel
like
like it's
I'm
about
trying
the
to hold up other things that we can like conceptualize the size. So here's
like the
my
remote.
Chromecast remote,
Well,
and
the Google
here's
TV,
my
the Google
station.
TV remote,
The Google
Chromecast
TV
TV.
Chromecast remote.
Exactly.
And I would say it's the same height, but it's about,
A little bit
I don't
wider.
know, 50% wider than the Chromecast remote, and about the same depth. So
Yeah.
something that is designed to easily sort of hold in your hand, remote control style, all of the same buttons that you would have on most of these streaming TV box remotes. And
Absolutely.
there's a little video output port to connect to the Rokid Max glasses, and then a little
Hmm.
power port. This is a USB-C bidirectional, so it's just for charging the station or powering. Like you can charge your phone off of it too.
Exactly. Yeah, and exactly. That's
Really,
why I
really
was kind of
simple.
like the only way I could describe it to somebody was it's like literally if they married a Chromecast with a power bank, and they
Yep.
put it in a pocket a
Hmm.
pocketable device that is easy to
Sure.
hold and easy to put in your pocket and just walk around. So yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
you plug your glasses into this, and it's not doing any fancy spatial computing. I hate that we're
No,
calling mixed reality spatial computing.
no,
It's
no, I'm
not
with you.
doing any fancy head tracking or mixed reality. But you get your. Let me make sure I pick up the right glasses here because I have the specific cable attached to the right glasses. So here are the Rokid Max. I had my visor on. You put on your glasses, and then you plug station into your glasses, and then an Android TV, a huge screen Android
Exactly.
TV, just appears in front of you, and it's totally self-contained. So where these glasses usually rely on some other phone or tablet or laptop,
Yeah.
now there's a Chromecast in your pocket, and you stream off of that, and you have this huge TV anywhere you can fit a pair of sunglasses and a tiny power bank.
Exactly.
Like this is it. This is your travel huge projector TV solution, and it fits in the palm of your hand if you're not trying to get your camera to focus on it.
No, and the beauty of it is it's a the portable functionality of it works almost anywhere you are. You could be in the
Sure.
car, you could be in the
Anywhere you have data.
backyard,
Yeah.
anywhere you're able to connect to a data, obviously connection. Yeah, either be not either. It is wireless only. There is no wired connection. The biggest appeal to it for me was in the car. We're going on a
Yeah.
trip. We're sitting somewhere, or my son's sitting in the back. For some time, and so I'll say this: Omar's been a big fan of the Rokid, the first generation Rokid that we got a chance to play with. So those have been his. I've given him those glasses, and he loves using them with his Red Magic. He uses them, when he plays games and so on a flight. 12-hour flight can get very exhausting, and he just literally puts his glasses on, and he's getting that personal experience there. So this is very much in that experience for people that don't have devices necessarily that can connect to it. Or let's say you don't want to have your device connected to this because you're using your device for something else. You can share your data to it and it works. You can cast to it as long as you're connected to the same Wi-Fi. There's a lot of familiar experiences that this can solve. It can solve a certain situation for you.
I'm pointing out Ken X's question here, and Ken, I'm not picking on you. I've been making these kinds of statements in a number of my videos. People are so unfamiliar with face displays, like everybody starting from scratch. I've been in the subreddits for Xreal and Rokid, and those are the communities those are the people who really know about this stuff. And I'm still fielding questions that are like covering the basics because so few people have really put these displays on your face. So Ken, this is a Chromecast with Android TV.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Ken is asking, do you need to pay for cell service with this? And if you can conceptualize, I've got a Roku or a Chromecast plugged into my TV.
Yeah.
Now take that off of your TV and just duct tape a battery to it. And that's what this is. So just like the Chromecast, the 4K Chromecast with Google TV or Android TV, whatever they call it now. I hate the name of it so much.
It's Google TV is the new name as Google connected it to the Chromecast.
But it's still technically an Android TV box, and that's what this is called, is Android TV. And it's so frustrating that Google has, I can't even think of the word, that has created all of these various permutations. And I really wish they would have just called it Chromecast. What does a Chromecast run? It runs Android. And the new Chromecast has a remote. And it could just be called a Chromecast. And this could be a Chromecast. And they could all just be Chromecasts. But now it's Chromecast with Google TV or this is the Rokid with Android TV. And it's dumb.
And then they add the Chromecast as a functionality to it. But no, I'm with you. The naming convention gets confusing.
This has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, just like a Chromecast. And so if you can throw your phone into a hotspot mode, it will connect to that Wi-Fi hotspot, and you can stream that way. There is no other connectivity, cell radio. It's not 5G or anything like that.
No.
I don't think you'd want it to be, because for its singular purpose of acting like an Android TV, this thing gets phenomenal battery life. Yeah. Like, it's really good. So we're not doing any of the fancy AR. It doesn't tackle any of the head tracking. It's super, 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 super simple, but it's a full-featured Android TV, and you can stream for hours. I mean, I never ran it down for a complete top-to-bottom, full-to-empty, but I'm estimating between like 6 and 8 hours, depending on what your data connection is like and how bright you're trying to crank the OLEDs in the glasses, because the glasses draw a little bit more power when you really crank the screen brightness on each of your eyes. I mean, that's so handy for like international flight. Charge it once. You can go the whole plane ride.
The challenge that we face obviously is on a flight. This ends up working more as a power bank to be able to charge up your phone, because you do need to have. There's no internet connection. And internet on the planes are much more restrictive. The one thing I did, I found that more functional for me is the ability of casting, local content. As long as your player supports
Mm-hmm.
Chromecast, you could do that
Yep.
on a plane and watch content off your phone. As long as you basically create a virtual hotspot from your phone, connect to the actual station itself. So there are ways of bypassing the whole when you don't have internet access. Because I think in yours you were talking about using it with Plex and so on and covering different
Mm-hmm.
experiences there. I tried leveraging more of the streaming content to it. What we can do, playing, you could play games with it. You can cast from your PC and make it into a wireless display that has a battery pack that runs with it.
Yep.
There's a lot of different functions that you can actually make this work in the home. But I feel like, again, as Juan and I were saying, it's for those external experiences. You're in a long ride. You hand this over to your kid. They're watching their favorite shows. They just
Mm-hmm.
tether to the hotspot, and you're still able to use your phone. If you're using Android Auto or anything like
Oh
that,
yeah.
that experience doesn't take away. So there's those little things that help, and
And
the
so
price point reflects that. It's intended to
yeah,
be
so
just
so
in that.
what sorry, I've done so many of these videos recently. It's 120 bucks?
It's about 129, I
119
think, if I'm not
something?
mistaken. Yeah, yeah,
129 something like
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
So, obviously you can get a Chromecast for a lot less.
Well, true.
But there's this really fun little idea of this being as well built and self-contained as it is,
Yeah.
that you could use this as your TV's Chromecast and just pair another remote with it because it's an Android TV. They actually do ship it with a Rokid remote and it
Yeah.
looks just like any generic Android TV remote. I'm sure it's just like a sticker they put on the back of the remote.
Oh no, no,
It's
absolutely,
really
and I
simple.
think in the setup process it requires you to pair it, but
Oh
you
yeah,
don't need to
they
use it
said
after.
I didn't
Yeah.
even bother with using it after that. But so for one purchase price, instead of buying a Chromecast, you could buy this, connect it to your TV, have it charging because you would also need to plug it into a power source, just like a
Hmm.
regular Chromecast. And then when you want to take it on the go, it's your Android TV. It's your TV that you would normally watch at home, and then you
Hmm.
just plug it into. I plugged it into an external monitor. I plugged
I did
glasses
I
into
did the
it.
same thing. I used it with
Yeah,
our external, the next dock.
yeah.
I have a your perfect monitor. It's
I
such.
had a little OLED, and I just, ooh, I want it to
Yeah.
be fancier, so I plugged an OLED into it, and it's like, oh, it's so pretty. And then it also does kind of work with the X Real Air. So if you already
Okay.
have another pair
Hmm.
of face
Glasses.
displays,
Hmm.
audio gets funky. So on the
Okay.
X Real Air, there's an audio channel that X Real dedicates on USB-C, and then they have a separate mode for HDMI audio.
Hmm.
I don't know because I don't have any on hand. I don't know if the TCL glasses are going to work with this in its current sort of iteration. But the X Reels did, the Rokid Air and the Rokid Max, and all of them
TCL, you say?
could put out audio. I don't know anyone who might have a pair of TCL wearable face displays handy. It's a total mystery. I don't think anyone
I'm gonna have to go out and have to
has
go on
both
the
of
limb
these
and say I'm gonna have
products.
to go find somebody.
It's a mystery. It's a search. You got
It
to like
is.
go and explore. It's a fetch quest. It's a terrible, terrible escort mission, but this has been a lot handier than I thought it was going to be.
Keep talking. Keep.
I have a
You're
yeah, yeah.
doing
I'm gonna
great.
vamp.
You're
I'm
doing
gonna
great. Yeah.
you do your thing there. That I have no idea what you could possibly be plugging into your Rokid station right now. I already have it out for the Patreon. It's in
Yeah.
early access on the Patreon, but it's also a look at gaming, where it's an Android TV and any app that you can install on an Android TV,
Steam
you can
Link.
install on your Rokid,
Hmm.
and it's so silly but there's something really fun about Steam linking from my Steam Deck to my glasses over the
You wait.
Rokid station. And it works so much better than
Oh.
I would have expected it to.
Okay. So JC, no
Yo,
bueno.
no
No bueno.
bueno. Not
¿Sabe
at all.
por
It's
qué?
not even getting an image.
No. TCL went proprietary on their connector. You
Oh,
can't even connect
right.
it. Yeah, they went with that new magnetic connector, which
Yeah. So you would have to
means
have my adapter. You don't have my adapters, do you? So you could
no.
do. There
which
is
one?
a mini HDMI. So you need the micro, I'm sorry, the micro HDMI from the Rokid cable terminates
Yeah,
in a USB-C.
exactly.
Then you would need to convert that
To so
into
a male to female.
an
No, wait.
HDMI, and then you would need the U green adapter that turns it back
Yeah,
into a
yeah.
USB-C. So immediately that would totally I have to believe that would totally tank all of your DRM. So you'd maybe be able to use Plex, but you wouldn't be able to watch
Yeah, you're right. You're
anything
right. I
else.
need to convert it over to
That
HDMI
that
because
that's
I have the
that's a
U
total
Green
mess.
adapt the U
Yeah.
Green one, the Govis one. Uh,
But nothing will do like
no,
USB-C male to USB-C female so that you can just plug it directly.
and
So
it
yeah,
does.
that's
Yeah. Okay. So,
and
well,
this is just like a Chromecast where like on my Chromecast, one of the first things I tried to do was, excuse me, I tried to plug in a laptop hub so that I could add storage and use better audio, and that failed.
yeah.
Chromecast went, "Oh no, you're trying to steal the DRM video," and like it shuts off the image. I'm sure someone has gotten something like that to work. It doesn't work just out of the box, just plugging in the cables and the adapters and stuff. So
So,
unfortunately, it's going to take us a while to figure out if we can get the TCLs functional. But you're
I know
right. I
I
forgot about the magnetic cable
yeah,
attachment.
and I was like, as I was thinking, I was like, okay, yeah, everybody uses USB-C. You're like, yeah, no, yeah, I forgot. So yeah, TCL chose at least on, I want to say on this generation because I don't remember playing with the first one. Did the first one have USB-C to C, or is it USB still with that magnetic connector?
The first TCL display had a hardwired USB-C
Oh, that's right.
cable.
But it was hardwired.
So
Yeah, and so you
yeah,
wouldn't
it
even
was
be able to
built
use it
into
anyway.
the glasses frame, so you couldn't detach it. Local black man has a very prescient point here. It's
Sure.
important to note that the latest Chromecast has the Android TV built in, whereas all of us first and second gen cool kids don't know that. To us, it's still a box waiting to be told to display something, and so that is because I was a bigger fan
Hmm.
of the original Chromecasts where it was just a dumb dongle
Well, it's
that
like it was
waited for
29 bucks.
you.
It was the easiest
Sure,
way.
sure, sure. But I
Yeah.
actually really loved the idea of not having a remote. My phone is where I look for stuff, and then I tell I
It's like
tell
I
the
thought it
phone,
had one.
send this
Yeah.
video
Hmm.
to my TV, and I'm done. And I've hated going back to a remote that we always lose because I have a rambunctious 7-year-old and she never puts the remote
No.
where the remote lives. We always
Yeah.
find it like 2 days ago we found it underneath in the cabinets under our downstairs bathroom sink because she needed to get something out of the cabinets under our bathroom sink and
That's
she
a
set
new.
the remote down there.
I
And
thought you were
that's
gonna
where it
say
lived for a whole
refrigerator,
day.
but like, yeah, okay, that one wins.
It
Lex
has
wins.
been in the refrigerator
1 point
because
to
she
Lex
goes
on
to
that.
get something and then she sets it down. And honestly, I think that might have been Marie. I think she blamed Lex so as not to be embarrassed. I think it was my wife. I don't think it was my daughter. But for me, it's like I put it in like a cargo shorts pocket and I walk upstairs and then like no one can find it. And they're like, oh no, I've got to stash it downstairs somewhere and make it look like it's a lesson or something.
No, no,
Yeah, I
I'm with you.
really
I'm with you.
liked, but the
Yeah,
current newest form of the Chromecast is a fully realized Roku style user interface,
exactly.
and I, I'm not really. I don't really have a horse in that race. If you like Roku, or if you like Chromecast, or even if you like Fire TV, do Fire TV.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Any one of
There's
these
another one.
boxes is so much better than having a built-in smart TV interface. Even though we
Oh,
have smart TVs, we default to using Chromecasts. It's
I used
just
to purposely
way
connect
more
an
consistent.
NVIDIA Shield to get that entire UI out the door because I just did not like the way we have it. And it's been a few years that NVIDIA hasn't actually updated their Shield system because for the
Yeah.
most part, it doesn't really need to. It's like it
Yeah.
still runs. It was
Yeah.
overpowered back in the day, and it's still overpowered for what it does now. The Tegra processors are way more powerful than we ever needed them in a streaming
Oh
content
yeah.
box. But no, so to a very specific experience, this is absolutely like taking the new Chromecast, strapping a power bank to it,
Hmm.
and giving you and then obviously put in that remote built into that entire experience. So power bank, Chromecast, and remote
And
in one
buttons.
box, and
Yeah.
buttons. and video out, and then again reversible power to be able to share it to if you want to say charge up your
And
phone if your phone
you
is
slap
dying.
on a face display, and like I said, it depends on a couple of those connectivity and lifestyle factors, but
Oh yeah,
at least 6 hours on a charge of whatever kind of video streaming content you want. If it's Steam Link, I mean,
yeah,
again, the Rokid station plus the Rokid Max glasses can outlast the battery on a Steam Deck.
yeah.
So it's totally silly in my video where I'm showing this. I have this beefy workstation right here, and I do some of my Steam Link gaming from that too.
No,
But the majority of the games that I'm really chewing through right now live on my Steam Deck. It's just way more accessible. So
yeah.
now the Steam Deck stays plugged in close to my router, and now I can game on a big screen version anywhere in the house
Anywhere
with
in
a
the house
little
without
Bluetooth
having
controller,
exactly.
and the glasses will go for like 6 hours of gaming while my Steam Deck stays totally charged. And then when I want to pick up the Steam Deck, or when we traveled, we hit the road, that first charge, it's fully charged, ready to go.
Hmm.
I don't have to worry about plugging it in. It's already docked. It's already plugged in.
Yeah.
So this is another important step in introducing consumers to the idea of putting a computer on your face. And so all of these glasses manufacturers have been working for a couple years now. TCL, I think, was the tip of the spear, and then
Hmm.
Rokid and Xreal jumped on and also started offering some of these. There's another one, Virtue, I think, is the other company that's coming up right now. They
Okay.
make a nice pair of glasses, and their version of a brain for the glasses is a neckband. It looks kind of like the old Tone LG Tone speaker.
I get, yeah, okay, I can see it.
You
I can
remember
see it. Yeah,
that?
yeah. No, exactly.
So we started out with just the displays, and people didn't really know what to do with them. And there were a lot of compatibility issues with phones that didn't put out video or made it really difficult. Like iPhones are such a nightmare
Well, no, yeah,
to
yeah,
do
or
anything
like
with.
the Z Flip 4, the Z Flip 5. We didn't have
Yeah,
USB-C video
video
out
out.
for the longest
Yeah,
time on Z Flip. This is literally a brand new feature. But yeah, no, if you have any earlier generations, you would have had to rely on something like this to be able to get it to go. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's not going to be for everybody, but it definitely brings in a solution for if you wanted to be able to use those glasses, have that big display with you going to places.
Oh
The
yeah.
one thing I would have wished is maybe the ability of allowing us to do maybe OTG connectivity, like connecting a small hard drive or something like
I
that to
know
run
what you
content off of
mean,
it.
but I bet you. So the original Chinese version of the Rokid station was a lot more like the X-Real Beam. It was a
Yeah.
lot more computery,
Oh,
and I
okay.
bet you in getting the official certifications for Android TV, I bet you Google was the one that said, "Nah, brah, you gotta
No.
lock everything down. Anything that can move data easily, anything that can bypass the direct hardware connection video feed." I bet you that's why Rokid decided on no data ports, because there's a micro HDMI and there's a USB-C power port, and that's it.
Yeah,
There's
and
no
like I
other way
said,
to
you
move
could still
data. I
technically
think
cast
they
your content
limited
to
it.
it. Yeah, yeah, no, I know.
Sure.
And
But
the
that's what I
storage I
mean is
think is
like
also limited. It's not like there's
if
a
you
lot.
make the data connectivity easier, someone might find a better way to intercept the video feed, and then this becomes a recording box to get DRM'd content off of Netflix.
No,
And I
I
bet
appreciate.
you to get the right certificate, because Netflix still doesn't even work on this. It
No,
doesn't have the right
and
security
I double
for
checked
Netflix to
even right
function.
before the video went live because I wanted to see maybe if there was because maybe like a last minute thing, kind of like
Nope,
nope, still you can't. There's
still
nothing.
locked down.
So with the
Yeah.
exception of Netflix, everything else seems to be working perfectly fine for me.
I made a bunch of dopey mistakes comparing the two too, because like a big chunk of my viewing and when I test things, it's with Plex. There's no copy protection on Plex. So I was hooking up cables. Oh, this works with that. No, you can do this. And like, oh, wait, none of that works with like Disney Plus. So it was like, oh, I've got to
What it's when you start watching.
rewrite part of the script.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know it. The DRM conversation we've gotten used to not having to worry about it for so much, but then when you start playing around and like you said, trying to jerry rig the concept, the conversation, yeah, you're right. You get there very quickly. You're like, oh, okay, this is not going to work the way I wanted it. But for where you want it, if you just want it to be as simple as it is, connected to your glasses,
Hmm.
it works exactly the way it's intended. Audio, obviously, from the Rokid Max are actually pretty decent. I love the experience there. I still prefer to use them with buds. I connect Bluetooth bud directly to the station, and I get better audio and more personal. Especially when you're in an environment where there's people around you, you don't want to bump up the audios too high.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it's an enjoyable experience. I love it. And if you
Yeah.
don't want to even use it with the glasses, connect it to a display or smart display, and you have your pocket, experience, Android TV on the go. And I love the fact that the UI on the box switched over to the Google TV, the new one,
Yeah.
with a quick update as soon as we updated everything in
Yeah.
the Google Play
The
Store. So I
Google
was like,
side of it updated really well, but the Rokid side still needs a
yeah,
little bit of polish. But even for a couple little gremlin-y bits, this is
it's still pretty
so
decent.
simple. It's
No, no,
so
absolutely.
straightforward. If you've used a smart TV, this is instantly familiar, and it solves a crucial issue of getting people up to speed with just putting the glasses on their face. So the entire combo is like 500 bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare that to some of the demonstration that we've seen from other companies that are now trying to talk about mixed reality headsets. Like an HTC could be like $1,000, $1,200.
Hmm.
And I feel one of the core entertainment uses is going to be something simple like I just want to throw up some video and
Yep.
watch a big movie, or maybe I want to take it on an airplane and I could watch content that way. And for like $500, some a pair of glasses that can fit in a shirt pocket and a small power bank is very convenient to travel with for that
Hmm.
kind of. I mean, again, and especially if you can stay more terrestrial. If like you're on a road trip, like I was on a road trip, this was really nice. This was really handy to kind of like pop on your face, quick burst. I could do this, or I also paired it to my phone as one of my examples. I was just kind of punching out a script and I had a bigger screen. So I had
Oh,
more real
yeah.
estate to read what I was writing. Those kinds
The
of things are,
flexibility of both the Max and the Station
oh, yeah.
are offer very, very nice options for you to be able to do many things with it. I will say that I'm in the lookout for right now for a good case so that I can
Yeah.
have the Max and the Station in the same box, because I thought it would fit in the
Mm-hmm.
case with the
Nope.
Maxes, but it doesn't close. Even if you take out
Nope.
the wires and you just put the base, like the Station at the bottom of it,
I'm
it
I'm
just
on
enough for it to not
embargo
close.
for another product that I can't talk about just yet. It has nothing to do with video streaming, and it is one of my biggest criticisms is like you as the company, you don't offer an accessory for people to pack all the things they would really need, and you really should. Even if you just got like a cheap knockoff of a Pelican and you slapped a sticker on it, that would be I would give you good money for that. And now I feel like Rokid and
No, no,
Xreal, both of these companies need to give us something that's
I'm not gonna lie. This is one of my most favorite gifts that I've received from you to this
yeah.
day. It's a carrying case for my wireless go-to mics.
Hmm.
It carries both
I'm so
everything that I
glad you're still
wanted.
digging that, man. I loved
Dude,
that
every
case.
time I go, every trip that I've gone to, seriously, this is the one thing I make sure that I pack correctly. I have both my
Hmm.
mics, I have my receiver, I have my extra lav mic. Everything in here I still use fine. And whenever I'm traveling, pop them back
Hmm.
in the box, take it with me. And absolutely,
Bada boom.
gear that has a lot of accessories, gear that has a lot of wires, it's impossible to predict what you're going to need. And if
Yeah.
you bring everything the way you normally get, if you don't have a case, it's just hanging everywhere and you're
Yeah.
not going to find it. So, yeah, no, we need cases. And this is one of my only thing, like I said, because I don't need the extra remote. I just literally need that wire and the Rokit station to be in a container that can house both the station as well as the Max. Then I'm set.
Hmm.
It's just that perfect combo. And hopefully, I'm
Yeah.
sure I'll find something, like you said, a Pelican case or something.
For sure.
It
But
would have been nice.
it's really not a challenge to make our own, but
Hmm.
I'd love to have seen them consider that and offer that as an accessory. Got a question here from Michael Peppertech TK. Do the
Oh, yeah.
newest Chromecasts support direct casting? Can you cast from your phone to them without a Wi-Fi network or without connecting it to a hotspot? One thing I like about Apple TV boxes.
If I'm not
I haven't had
mistaken, I
any
want to.
issues using them out on the road, so
Yeah, I
I'm
don't.
imagining that it
Yeah,
is
it
a
is.
direct
Yeah,
connection.
the only one that requires direct Wi-Fi connectivity is Miracast. That's what you need to be on the same Wi-Fi. But
You
you
can,
should be able to. I don't think you can Miracast without Wi-Fi, can you?
I think you can. I think Miracast works better if you're on the
If you
same
have a.
network, but Miracast can be point to point.
Okay, because
But
I've always done
you
it
know
with
what?
Wi-Fi connectivity.
I have both
Both.
solutions here, and I can test that, and I probably should just test that. So I'll get off my home Wi-Fi. Oh, I don't know how to easily get the Rokid. Because
Oh,
you know, like
simple.
Android TV just like signs into your Wi-Fi, so it'll take me a second to kind of figure that out. But we can do
You-
this live while we talk about this stuff
we
here.
could definitely do that. Yeah, I think it should be fine. I don't think there's a reason why it wouldn't work, because it is direct connection. As long as you have, I think it should automatically. Although I want to say that Chromecast does typically scan your Wi-Fi when it's running
Yeah.
to try to find devices. It does scan because I found devices that show up on my Chromecast when I'm casting that are in a separate part of the house, like in almost the
Yeah.
opposite side of the house, and it still shows up. And I think it's because it's scanning through the Wi-Fi. But it'll be interesting to see how.
So, and then on the X-Real Beam,
Mhm.
X-Real can work device to device, which I believe isn't anything fancy. I'm pretty sure that's just a Miracast protocol.
I think so.
But for Apple devices, if it's not a first-party Apple device, you can't AirPlay device to device. They have to be on the same network.
Okay,
So
that's
if
what
you've
you were
got
saying in your video. I
Apple
remember.
devices, they can go device to device, and it's a direct client connection. But if you've got something like the X-Real Beam, it can AirPlay, but you have to be on the same network.
No, I got it.
So I'm going to disconnect. Okay, my phone is disconnected, and my Rokid, I didn't even boot it up. So let's boot it up.
That would be
Do.
the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, turning it on is typically the preferred way to use a lot of our technology.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And no, yeah, and it is. You're right.
Take
It
a
is.
second
Let's see
here.
how it
Read
is.
through a few more comments while I get this set up. We can take the chat to our chat.
Okay.
We read all your comments and then we never reply to anything. So
Okay, so
so like Ken X had a question and Steve and I need to move this boom
oh yeah,
mic that
Ken
I'm
X
not
here is.
using.
Okay, I need to
This
get
is
better.
so cool. I love like I'm looking at you right now and I'm seeing like the boot up screen and it's all like really accessible and it looks great. These things are so fun.
Okay, so the nasal blur. Okay, so I see Aditya. Oh, yeah, Aditya's in the chat. Hey, man, hope you're doing well.
Like put up a comment and
Etheric
then read the
Miracast.
comment.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think Miracast is Wi-Fi only because of the next stock requires Wi-Fi, right? I think yes, Wi-Fi. No, yeah, next stock does require Wi-Fi. Does require Wi-Fi. No. I take that back. Nextdoc does not require Wi-Fi. You're able to connect directly from it, and it is using the Wi-Fi module on the actual Nextdoc, but it doesn't need to be connected to the same Wi-Fi. And I think that's what he's referencing in that one. Here, okay, so he was
Might just
responding
need
back to
forget these
Farhan.
networks.
Ken X says interesting. I'd like it though, where we don't have buy 16 different accessories to be able to get the same accessory. Absolutely, makes perfect sense there. Possible DRM. Okay, so I think Farhan was jumping into the DRM configuration. He said, "Is it possible DRM related restrictions?" And he's responding back. There's a few conversations going on. I love that. Here. So local black man says, I noticed that Netflix started mixing their content. For instance, over HDMI via DeX, I could watch The Flash, but not The Extraction 2. I could watch Insecure, but not Hidden Strike. So I don't know what's going on. And I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, depending on the content that. So I'll say this. Depending on the content that Netflix allows you to download is what is I think the big differentiator between the two. Some movies and some content they don't have the licensing to let you download, and I think that changes the requirement of how they're able to cast. But I had I had similar problem not with the same show as far as I forgot the name of the other show, but it was I downloaded the Flash for my flight to London. And I tried downloading another show, and I could not play that on my glasses. But the Flash was where it was playing fine. So it depends. Netflix is always picky, especially on device. But I wasn't using Dex at the time. And then Aditya jumping in. TK, what's your first EDM album dropping? Nothing Phone. Thanks, we did Hot Mafia. Absolutely. So as Juan's setting this up, if you guys have Nothing Phone either 1 or Nothing Phone 2. You probably know that the glyph interface has now a composer, and it allows you to actually create your own custom glyph interface lighting and music. And OnePlus, no, sorry, OnePlus, Nothing and Swedish House Mafia finally dropped their their audio pack. And I kid you not, it took me a good 35 minutes just to find the right pattern to get it to make it into a song that I can play and just make it sound like it is music. It's not just TK pushing buttons just to get the lights to go on.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, definitely very soon, Aditi. I got to work on that a little bit more. To make it an album, we need at least 3 songs, and I've already got one down, one in the can. So we just need 2 more. And yeah, Nothing But Glyph would be coming out very, very soon. Selfie title releasing on the Nothing label for sure.
So I had to like just nuke all of the Wi-Fi accounts on my
Okay.
OnePlus 11 and on my Rokid.
Okay.
So there's no network connection here. Going Android TV, it doesn't seem to find. So first of all, it's an
Okay.
Android TV, so you need data for it
To run.
anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So you would even if you were out and about, you would probably still need to throw your phone into like a hotspot mode.
Because
Cast,
at
so
the end of the
you
day, you're
need
right. You're
some
casting something
network
to it. Well, no, no.
connection.
Sorry. Does the OnePlus 11 on Plex see the TV? That's the test that we wanted to see. Can you cast directly to it even if it doesn't have internet connection?
No, that's just it. Is
Oh.
like so. What I'm trying to do is use screencasting and Google Home to
Hmm.
get it to. Oh, I just said the G word, and 5 phones on my desk lit up. I'm trying to get it to screen mirror or do
Hmm.
something like that, and it
Hmm.
can't find
The TV.
something that's not on its network. So I would have to tether it or hotspot it or something
Okay.
just to make it somewhat accessible. So now I'm going to take off the Rokids and I'm going to put on my X Reels because
Let's
I
see.
believe the
Yeah, yeah.
Beam should easily give me device to device. So I
Okay.
won't be able to do anything with it
Because if it doesn't have
because the
internet, you're
Beam is a completely different kind of solution. The Beam is just about head tracking and mixed reality computing.
hmm.
But the Beam should immediately go device to device and go over Miracast. So something that is an Androidy or a Chromecasty solution
Hmm.
without data, you're not going to see the 2 devices. It's not going to do anything. But now, oh, I need
The
to
what?
get. Let me
Oh yeah,
get
no.
my
As you're
X
doing that,
reels. There's
uh,
so many glasses on on my
for a guy that
bookshelf
doesn't
at
wear
my desk.
glasses, that seems like a predicament,
I
my
wear a
friend.
lot of
Yeah,
glasses.
you got a
I
lot of
even pulled
glasses.
out my Focals by North for an
Ah,
editorial,
the
and I
classics.
really miss those. So
So while
now I'm
you're
gonna
doing that
plug
one, Michael
these
Peppertech
in.
dropped in. Nice that Rokid didn't make it proprietary, so you can use the box with other displays. That means when they update their glasses, you can continue to use the box, even if you don't have if you get a different device. So yeah,
Yeah,
no. I think with the exception of the audio channels that Juan was dealing with,
yeah,
which totally could have been
and
circumvented if you just go Bluetooth,
and
which
yeah,
again,
and again, a lot of that is really going to be the limitations of the DRM on these platforms.
yeah,
And I really do believe that a major part of this conversation, when we're talking about these little brain boxes that power these glasses, these are sort of intro generation products.
hmm.
It's like you need something like Rokid Station that is eminently familiar and accessible for consumers just so that they can understand what it does. And I
Exactly.
feel like I missed the boat. I actually wrote an editorial and I posted this on my Patreon too. When we were talking, I thought techies would really go after the X Real Beam, that they would be way more interested in that. And I was completely wrong. Like the engagement and the interest and the people who are like, oh, and the Rokids, it's like an Android TV. I get that. And I can watch things and I can do stuff. And you're like, that is so much more familiar even to the tech savvy folks. And Beam is a lot harder to explain what it does because it really doesn't. I mean, right now, the Beam just booted up and I'm seeing a splash screen that gives me very basic setup user guides, my settings page to get into my Wi Fi, and then a little splash at the bottom that says more apps coming soon. It doesn't do anything on its own. It's the translator to use all of the extra head tracking sensors
Mm-hmm.
in the glasses. That's all it does. It just takes content from other devices and it translates it to the glasses so that when I look, now my splash screen is gone. So I've pinned it. I can pin it over here.
Yeah.
And then when I look away back at you, it's not in my field of view. And it's just like having an extra monitor. And it's right over there. So now I'm going to see if I can do screencasting from this.
Hopefully it works.
And it should show up as just the beam. And there it goes. The menu just moved. And now I can go direct and start now. And now here's my OnePlus 11. And I can dock my OnePlus 11 screen right here. And then when I look at you, it's gone. And then I look over there and there's my OnePlus 11 floating in space and I can move stuff on the screen and it's doing stuff in my field of view. So this is device to device. It doesn't have to be on the same network. But for the X-Real Beam, if you have an iDevice of some kind, like an iPhone or an iPad,
You do need to.
AirPlay, I think, will only work if you have it connected over a network. So,
No, and I think it's good. It's a good testing on in a different user experience because typically we are always connected to the Wi-Fi, and I think to the end, to a certain point, yes, Chromecast has always been a Wi-Fi experience, and I think because it does require internet connection to be able to stream the content, once it takes over, once it becomes the receiver of the content,
yeah,
it's hard for it to, But I think if you turn on a hotspot, it should work.
But to Michael Peppertek's point, that would be. It's the expectation that an Android TV was always going to live in or on a TV, and you weren't going to travel with a TV.
Exactly.
Now we're using Android TV to do something a little different. Powering Android
the
TV
Pixel
on
tablet
a portable device.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No. But I mean, powering Android TV on a portable device, there is an expectation. I think Michael Peppertek brings up a great question because what about... I don't have any data connectivity. I don't have good LTE or even 3G, but I've got video clips and photos on my phone. I shot a whole bunch of location footage and I was driving through rural New Mexico. There was like most of the week you couldn't get a hold of me because we just had such poor data connectivity. But I shot a whole bunch of things. Wouldn't it have been cool if I could have used Google Home in a point-to-point connection connected to an Android TV that didn't have a data connection? Like, that's something I can do on the X-Reels with the Beam because that's Miracast. So I can't use it with a Pixel because Pixels don't support Miracast. But on my OnePlus, even if I don't have data to stream video, I could still look at all the photos and videos on my phone. So that it's that kind of stuff where we're using Android TV as the OS for something that was not meant to be pocketable, portable. And now we've got to figure out, like, how can we maybe push that and do some other things with it? Like, if you want to watch local content with no data connection, you have to know how to sideload apps, how to load things directly into the storage, and then use an app like VLC to watch something stored locally. And you only have 32 gig of storage for the operating system, all the apps you're going to install, and any content that you might want to put on it. But there is no... Android TV does not have a function to cache your video. So like if you've got your phone and you download a movie from Netflix, you can watch it when you're offline.
Exactly.
There is no offline mode for Android TV's version of Netflix because Android TV was not conceived as a
the UI, the UI on there. Exactly, you're right. The UI doesn't even have the option for downloads. It's only intended for mobile devices that you're using if you're screencasting your device. And I think the biggest thing that'll probably we'll have to see how this gets updated. What Rokid is able to do to make this a little bit more functional in that manner because people will probably want to use it. I'm almost tempted to say that if you do create a hotspot on your phone and you connect your Rokid
Yeah,
station to it, you should be able to
that
cast to it from the phone. By definition, that's
yeah.
the link that it's missing. Even if your phone doesn't have internet connection, it's that just the fact that the Wi-Fi connection is there. Then you have peer-to-peer connectivity, and then at that
Yeah.
point, your device is the streaming content. So you're shooting, like if you're playing stuff like off of Plex or something like that, you could run Plex on your phone. Like Plex can run a server off your phone. It's gonna murder your battery very, very quickly. But I mean, if you really wanted to push it in that way, this could definitely act in that manner. But we'll have to see, obviously, what improvements, not only just Google, but even third party companies that are trying to move in this direction. Because kind of like what we had to do with tablets and so on, Google stopped developing for tablets, and Samsung took over to try to provide more experiences, the dock, and a whole bunch of different things. And
Hmm.
now that Google's playing the game again, things are going to get better for everybody. So
We
it's an
hope.
experience for sure.
Again,
So
we keep doing this stop start thing on different types of heads up displays and
yeah,
glasses and all this stuff. And genuinely, like, if we had just kept iterating on some of the original, like Google Glass, we would have so much more knowledge,
we would have been
and we would have worked
so
out
much
so
more ahead.
many
Exactly.
we would have worked out so many more of these problems. And so now it's kind of back in the enthusiast space with these smaller, these are boutique solutions, but
Mhm.
they're really well crafted boutique solutions. Between XReal and Rokid and TCL, we're already outselling what I think the first run of Apple Vision Pro is going to look like. It's
Yeah.
so much more important to start with some of the basics and build up than
Yeah.
think I can come out with a $3,500 headset at the top of the market. This is the most expensive option that mixed reality has ever seen, and you're still going to have to figure out all the same problems as a $400 pair of glasses. You're still going to have to figure out all of the UI quirks. You're still going to have to get developers on board. You still have the same issues, but you spent 7 times more
You get
to
you
jump
get
on that
you
bandwagon.
get the price hike of the label, I think, to a certain point. But no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Well, this is why I think this conversation is interesting. I'm going to save this for a future video where I kind of break down, and TK and I are going to work on a couple of comparison videos.
Yeah.
Rokid glasses versus X Real glasses, and then Rokid's
Well,
brain versus X Real's brain. And we're going to kind
yeah.
of share, like on both of our channels, we're going to talk about this. But there's something that really concerns me about the HoloLens, the HTC
Hmm.
Vive Pro, I forget what the Vive XR Pro or whatever it's called right now, and the Apple Vision Pro. For
And
HoloLens, it makes sense that it's a self contained unit because it's billed as a dev kit. A consumer can buy it, but it's really not a consumer facing product.
exactly.
But Apple Vision Pro is an Apple processor with Apple compute units to handle all
Co-processors.
of
Yeah.
the head tracking
Hmm.
and a visor and a headset and a dongle battery. So, if I've got my my wearable display glasses and I plug a really fancy brain into them, when the brain gets better, I detach this brain. The glasses can stay the same, and then I attach a better brain, and I don't have to scrap the entire headset.
Kind of like a neck stock.
Well, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
it's a
it makes it
more
so that it's more
modular approach,
exactly.
and we can translate. So I've got a computer, like I've got my Robo and Kala here. I can't tell
Hmm.
you how much fun it was to pair my X-Real glasses with the X-Real beam and then use that as a second monitor for my Robo and Kala because it floats the monitor in space just like we saw in that Apple Vision Pro demo. I've
Exactly.
got the Robo and Kala in front of me, and then off to the side, I've got an enormous display that I could also then control the size and the distance and the look of it. But it stayed tucked away, and when I would look away from it, it was out of my field of view, and then I'd look over it and it's in my field of view, and it's really, really high resolution for being a smaller field of view. It's
Hmm.
really nice. So I don't have all of that built into the glasses. So the glasses stay really little. And then if I want to pair it with a more powerful laptop, later I can pair it with a more powerful laptop. When the
Exactly.
brain that does the sensor translation gets better, I can pop that part out and go with that. And there's a patent that Microsoft just filed very recently that I don't think they're going to make it, again, in any consumer facing way, but it seems like an iteration on HoloLens that's totally modular.
Oh.
So there's like a face component, and
Hmm.
then a sensor component, and a compute component, and a battery component.
That's a smart
Well,
way.
what does that look like? That looks like
What you're holding in your
Nreal, sorry, Xreal and
X Real.
Rokid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you take the part that you need and you attach it to the things that you're already using. I don't love this idea that Apple's showing off Vision Pro with you can use your Vision Pro and a MacBook to simulate just using your MacBook. You can use two whole computers to get the experience of using one whole computer.
$8,000 right out the no depend. Yeah, yeah, no, no. I'm totally with you. The
They did in their keynote. They showed $6,500 worth of computer to use what would have been kind of just a $2,000 computer and a monitor.
oh,
And
no, no, no. They
that's not
converted
winning
it.
me over here.
It's well, and I think that to a certain point we kind of the field is still like you said. Rokit is doing a much better job, and I think Xreal as well is trying to do a better job of providing consumers with options to be able to use their tech. They're leaving it up to the consumers to pick what experience they're going to use. If it's something that's supported by their smartphone, they can go about it that way and go with the solution just straight with the glasses. Use the app on their phones. If they don't have that solution, but they still want to be able to enjoy content, watch movies, they have the station, they have the
Yep.
X Beam, and I think to a certain point, this is again, in my opinion, at least, like the better solution. Buy the system that fits you, and fix what the part that you need fixed so that you can get the
Yeah.
better experience. Buying into an entire whole system, although great, and obviously I think the M series, and I'm not going to say anything against the mobile processors that Apple has and the Apple Silicon there, it is absolutely powerful. It absolutely will last for years, but it is not modular. It is to a certain point limited by battery capacity. You do need to have
Mhm.
external battery packs to run it. But in the way this is currently being set up, this is purely an over. I'm not gonna say overpriced, but like an over. It's a lot more than what I think they're going to be basically presenting it. This is the weird thing. I think they're going to have to dumb it down so that people appreciate what it can do. But to a certain point, like you
Yeah.
said, these examples of having to replicate a monitor that you can buy for $200-300 doesn't make sense. A $400 monitor should not be a solution that we replaced by a $2,500 solution, or 3,500. I think the isn't the Vision Pro is 35, right, or is it 25?
Vision Pro is $34.99, and
Yeah.
that's
So
before we know what it's really going to launch with, and that might not include head strap and other
yeah,
accessories.
yeah,
We
the
know that
accessories
like
and yeah.
lens inserts are also going to be the lens inserts on the Vision Pro are going to be almost as expensive as buying the X Real glasses.
I think it said it was like 400, and you had to get it a manual, not a manual. It had to be custom
Yep.
inserted for you at an Apple store, so you couldn't even do it
As
by yourself.
opposed to the Rokid Max and the HTC. So the
Hmm.
HTC Elite. I can't remember what it's called. It's like I think it's HTC XR Elite.
Yeah.
$1,200 headset at its most expensive, and also with these $400 Rokid Max built-in diopters. So at
Oh, that's
least
true.
a
Yeah, yeah.
wider swath of consumers who might have some nearsightedness
I
have a solution where they
appreciate
don't
those more about the Max on those. Yeah.
immediately have to jump to lens inserts. It's just a part of the product because HTC has been making mixed reality headsets for a lot longer than Apple has. And their cooling design looks like it's going to be a lot more effective for ski goggles that you stick to your face,
Hmm.
where all of the cooling components for the hardware also increase airflow around the user's forehead so that you don't get like foggy lenses and stuff, which
We
I
get
just feel like if Apple really was the company that they advertised themselves to be, that would probably be something that they would have considered better. A
well, we don't have
$3,500
we
headset.
we are not going to have to wait too long, my friend. Early 2024 is just around the corner, right after that holiday the
Oh,
holiday break that
did
we
you
got.
see? I can't remember where I shared it. I might have shared it on Mastodon. Hold on, let me see if I can find just. I can't remember the outlet that did it. So, Vision Pro hasn't even made it out yet,
No, no,
and
no,
Digital Trends already has rumor articles. The next Vision Pro,
no.
they're already
Oh,
tackling the
how can you?
rumors on
Well, I mean, I don't. Okay,
the
I'll
next
say
Vision.
this.
Vision Pro 2 is going to be
Vi-
even better than Vision Pro 1. TK, did you
Uh,
know
uh,
this? Could you have
so,
conceived of
I
a
mean,
world where Apple
that
would come out with a Vision Pro 2 that does things that the
better than
Vision
the
Pro
first.
1 isn't going to be able to do?
That is just
That
not
is a
like
hot
Apple, though,
headline right now.
dude.
Google
But that is
served me
so.
that in my feed
That
when
is
I
so not
accidentally
what Apple
swiped.
does, though. Apple absolutely does the total opposite. They give you all the features first, and then as generationally you get more devices, you
They
get less
removed
and
the
less and less.
features.
Yeah, this is so no. I don't. Digital Trend needs to work on their source material. I feel like Apple Vision Pro 2 is going to do less, may even provide you less. No, the
You heard it here
reality,
first, folks.
like it's just
Apple
like me
Vision Pro
saying,
2,
no,
they're
no,
going
like
to bring back the headphone jack. There
dude,
you
it's
go.
like absolutely me saying, standing up here and say, you know what? The OnePlus 12 is going to be featuring the 8 Gen 3 processor from Qualcomm.
No.
It's going to have
Do you
16
have this
gigs of RAM
confirmed?
and
Where did
512.
you find out
I'm
about
telling you right
this?
now. I'm telling you right now. I have access to some really secret documents.
No.
They're called yearly iterative upgrades. And the fact of the matter is, I can tell you the OnePlus 13, how that's going to perform.
There's a website that was so thirsty for clicks, and they knew they had to juice the Apple SEO.
Yeah.
They
Oh my God.
started pitching rumor
Like
articles on Apple Vision
Vision
Pro
Pro
2.
2.
So
Because, yeah.
I know for a fact that a Vive XR Elite business grade mixed reality headset is
Hmm.
going to be a lot nicer and more immersive
Hmm.
experience than these X-Real and Rokid glasses. I guarantee you that Apple's Vision Pro is going to be a more techie immersive gadget.
Okay.
That's not an argument. We know the field of view on the lenses is going to be wider. The resolution argument is really going to take some education for consumers because consumers understand full HD versus 4K, but they don't understand pixels per degree. And the center clarity on the X Real is probably going to be about the same as the center clarity on the Apple Vision Pro. It's just
Hmm.
the Apple Vision Pro is going to fill your peripheral vision, but I don't know how much resolution do you need at the parts of the screen you're not looking at. So
Or
does
you'll never.
4K
Oh,
help
yeah,
you as much?
exactly. And I think
But
it's yeah.
we know that Apple Vision Pro is going to be a significantly techier, more expensive product than these glasses. But when I see how regressive Apple's solution for mixed reality is being presented as I can play an iPad game on a TV that doesn't exist in my room. And you're like, for $400, you can play your Steam Deck games. I mean, sorry, not your Steam. You can play your PC games over Steam Link
Hmm.
on a TV that doesn't exist in your room. So the gaming, it's not going to be as cool like 6 degrees of body relative spatial computing tracking.
Yeah.
But if you just need to see a big screen and play your game, that's a $500 experience.
They still need to figure out a way to make sense of it all to people because at its best right now it's a dev kit. It's not an actual product. They're still, like you said, they're still trying to get developer on board. They're still trying to figure out how to package this. It's just that
Yeah.
Apple wanted to have that wow kind of a moment and they brought it in. They're not letting any person that was there talk about actual experience on these devices.
Have you heard
The
about
only
how restrictive the devs have been finding it? That like they have
oh,
very limited access to actually trying out software on Vision Pro. So like the dev kit can give you these tools to try and build these apps.
exactly.
How do you run the apps and really see that they work outside of a virtual environment? And Apple's like, no, we can't really let you play with the headset yet. Sorry, bye.
That'll be
Like,
available
this
in
is
early 2024 for
ridiculous.
3,500. No, no, I know. No, I think it is because I feel like Apple still doesn't know exactly how this is going to come out. They're still in
No.
the process of figuring out, and the only thing they could do for us right now is it runs every app your phone runs. And I'm like, great, my phone is already doing this. Why do I need
Yeah.
to pay $3,500 more?
And if you could give me a phone that could put out video through a USB-C port, I could connect to any monitor or TV or wearable face display
Oh no, no,
or
absolutely.
mixed reality
I'm
headset,
I'm interested
and
to
I
see what they
wouldn't need to
do
spend
with.
$3,500 to
No, no,
recreate my phone apps.
the next iteration of iPhone is going to have USB-C, and to a certain point, they
I'll
even
be
if they want to,
shocked.
if they
I'll
have
be
video out,
shocked if it has like video out and full
that
support for USB 3.
oh I know no
I mean,
it's an
that would be a
absolute
huge
it's an
benefit.
Apple certified technology that it'll only work with Apple products, and of course everything Apple.
Hmm.
No, no, I that's not what I'm. My main thing is essentially it's a confusing ecosystem when you insert the Vision Pro right now, and I think this is what Apple's trying to figure out. How do you position the Vision Pro in their architecture of, how many devices you're supposed to have in real life? Between the phone, the tablet, the
Right.
MacBook, you know what I mean. And obviously they eliminated the iPod because the iPhone kind of does the whole thing already. Anyways, they realized that nobody's buying AirPods anymore. But the reality is, it's a positioning, right? It's an
Yeah.
ecosystem of architecture. Where do you put? And it still isn't really a product on its own. It has so much overlapping products that can do what it does. And the
Right.
only demos that they showed us are things that we could already do now. Like there was not much in there that was like, okay, wow. But we'll have to see. Well, again,
And
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because to a certain point, whatever they put out, which is really sad, but it will help push some of the other experiences on the market for us as well. Because we'll see maybe some better improvements with more portable solutions, with better, maybe Rokid's Generation 2 station or 3 will have a better
yeah.
processing experience
And
that could
and we
benefit us.
really don't need a whole lot to help consumers just get familiar with it.
Yeah. No, no.
Really, the like you were saying some of the things that you wish the Rokid station could do. The
Yeah.
only thing that I really felt would have been like an immediate consumer accessible feature would have been like a mini video mode. So you're wearing your Rokid glasses
Hmm.
and you don't want them occupying your full field of view,
Oh, okay.
and you could just shrink it to like a little mini picture in picture window.
Especially when you have the visor off and make it
Yeah.
just sit on the side so that you
When you're
still
using
have
them
it.
like sunglasses,
Yeah, yeah.
it would be nice if you could change the how
Perspective.
much of the field of view it's occupying.
That
And
makes
really
sense.
like I kind of feel like for what station is trying to accomplish, that's the level of little mini tweaks that I'd want to see. I don't really think station needs to be anything too disruptive. Beam
Hmm.
is the solution I'm looking at. Is this is a little bit more disruptive. This is taking the head tracking and bringing in all of this mixed reality data to any computer you want to pair it with, but you got to pair it with another computer. And
Exactly.
Beam to me is a lot more exciting for that potential, but it's unrealized potential because you plug it into Beam and then you just like, I see a menu. What do I do with it? You
You have
got
to
to
connect to it.
do
You have
something
to do
with it.
something. Yeah, yeah.
Whereas
You can't just turn it
Station
on.
is its own solution. Station is its own flavor. I want to bring this up because, and I'm not picking on you, Michael Peppertech, but I feel we talk about Apple like this a lot, and I
Hmm.
don't think they deserve it. So Michael Peppertech says it's kind of not Apple-like to jump into something like this that experimental. First time since the original iPhone that they've really jumped into something that they'll have to figure out. And I would disagree. I kind of feel the first Apple Watch
Hmm.
was a very limited experience compared to what other smartwatches could do at the time. And over time, I like by my Apple Watch Series 3, then they were really cooking on what Apple Watch could bring to the table. And I
Exactly.
just wrote another editorial that is going to post early on Patreon tomorrow morning talking about what an utter calamity AirTags have been. AirTags have set the entire location industry back a whole year. And because Apple did not consider all of the ways that their product could be abused, they're leaving this problem for everyone else to figure out. It's
Hmm.
delaying Google's tracker network. It's stalling the hardware sales. I've got pre-orders for all of these Android compatible tags, and I'm getting emails from every manufacturer saying, we can't tell you when these products will ship. They're ready to go. We have them in boxes. Google will not let us send them to you because Google is too busy fixing Apple's cluster F word.
Tag. No, cluster tag. No, I know. I'm with you. It,
So
it,
I feel like we deliver this idea of Apple really taking their time, and when Apple gets into it, they'll do it right and blah 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 blah. But I don't think the current version of Apple really operates like that. I think they are just as likely to turn their consumers and everyone else, even the people who aren't their consumers. We've all been AirTag beta testers. We've
no,
all
right.
had to deal with this, and the entire fallout of it has stalled competition. But Apple still gets to sell their AirTags. Apple still gets to leverage their market share. Apple still gets to pull some anti-consumer moves, anti-competitive moves, sort of stealing the business model of a company like Tile, and they'll figure it out. Google will figure it out for them. Don't worry about that. We'll get on board, and by AirTag 2, we'll have better sensors and locations, and we can do better chirps and notifications, and it'll be great. But Apple turned us all into beta
Beta
testers for
testers.
this
No,
kind
I
of
know.
thing. And I guarantee you, when Apple puts out a folding phone, it will not be better than a current generation Android folding phone, and
Oh
it will
no.
only be marginally better than like the first generation
Generation, the Fold One.
folding phones. They're going to
It'll
make
be
a
like
bunch of mistakes just like everyone else
oh
has.
no, no, but and I think that was the, but I think it's to not to kind of like shift it over, but I do get a little bit of what Michael's trying to say in the sense that I think it's they're showing this to people though. It is if
Yeah.
you walked away, if you're
Yeah,
able to
that's
see
fair.
through the facade that is Apple, everything just works concept, and you saw the product for what it is and you thought about it. The reality is all they were able to show you there was like, this is a fancy wireless
Mixed
display.
reality headset. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Mixed reality, AR, a little bit, China environmental type of, a lot of the
Yeah,
things that
I
we've
had
seen
an Acer that sold for like $399 brand new,
and
and it
would
was doing
probably
most of what Vision Pro
the
was
the
showing
M2. No, no.
off.
And I think to a certain point, we'll have to figure out how they are able to position it. How do they justify that to consumers, and if they or whatever the and again whatever end the end product ends up being, as you said, what we saw was their aspiration. What they were promising us was the stars. Did they show us anything? No. We need to wait for all of that to actually materialize and how it's
Yeah.
going to be. The foldable is not going to be any better. You're right. Android has had foldables for many, many years. We have devices that are so thin now that they're about the thickness. Like the Magic V2, if I'm not mistaken, is a hair shy thicker than an iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's how thin a dual display is on what Honor's trying to push with there. And I can imagine by the time Apple comes around, we are talking much more thinner bezels and more sleek level designs. But yeah, we're finally starting to see Apple do where they have to innovate with new technology. They're figuring it out, and now they're showing people that it doesn't just work with Apple. Apple got to make it work.
So Michael Peppertech is saying Google wouldn't have to do anything if they have actually adopted the Find My API. What is the Find My API?
I think he's
So
referring to the.
the big problem is Apple went and made AirTags, and they
Mhm.
didn't consult the Bluetooth special interests group, because I don't believe there is a standardized protocol in the Bluetooth stack
Mhm.
for notification of tracker proximity. And it
Oh yeah.
is ridiculous to me that Apple engineers did not consider the potential for AirTag abuse on the AirTag with Android users, Windows users, and people who had older iPhones and iPads that didn't properly support Apple's implementation of the AirTag.
That they would
So
never
I
be
don't know what
notified.
you mean by a Find My API.
I'm
I would
assuming
need
it's.
to have a link to something
Mhm.
like that, because literally searching for Find My API brings up nothing that would have helped this situation, because Apple rolled their own. And Apple didn't consult the organization that would have helped validate a Bluetooth location based tracker and given them the tools to then make that a part of just the common Bluetooth stack in Bluetooth 5.3.
No, I'm with you.
Now we're going to catch up to that because Apple went and broke everything. But I don't know that there's anything that would have been an accessible standard for them to have interoperability that also wouldn't
other
have
companies.
been punitively licensed. Because that's the other problem too, is like, if you're telling me that it's just something you can get an Apple certification for, no one's going to license a proprietary Apple standard. I mean, maybe you get like some headphone manufacturers or something like that are going to jump on
for
board.
Apple.
But
Oh,
like,
no, yeah.
you're not going to have Tile support Apple's business model in ripping off their business
Their
model.
business model. Yeah, no, I know. And it's the end of Tile. That was kind of such a sad.
Oh, Michael Peppertech is saying Bose, for example, uses Find My API, which is something that Apple made open when they launched the Find My network years ago. They didn't make it open.
They made it available for people to adopt. Yeah.
They made it available for people to give Apple money.
Yeah.
But it's not a part of the Bluetooth SIG. It's not a part of the Bluetooth stack. What we need is something accessible so that this is something that alerts to abusive behavior at a Bluetooth core functionality level, regardless if someone is paying an Apple licensing fee or not.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Apple being so proprietary. They're breaking standards and blaming their competition for why things don't work, and they get to continue doing business that way.
And other people have to figure out how to make it.
The whole rest of the industry has to fix their mess. And I have 3 products delayed because Google is having to delay their rollout of an Apple proprietary tracker network that doesn't work and it's not interoperable. So let's not give Apple a pass on this. Apple did something bad and it caused the potential for a lot more harm the way that they pushed this at scale. They can deliver products at a scale no one else can touch. So I'm not inclined to say that Find My is an open standard. Apple making it available doesn't. Oh no, my camera overheated.
You're running an Apple camera?
They're telling me it's like 2 hours. It's like, oh, we got to shut this show down.
That's all right. So on that note, Juan decided to go Technicolor on all of us today because that's how the show ends.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. No, I'm with you.
No, Michael Peppertech, anything Apple does is not an open standard. You've got to show me where anyone can make a product and not pay Apple money to be a part of the Find My network. That is not the definition of an open standard. So we're not bullying Apple when we point out how their business practices harm other consumers and harm other industries. That's not bullying. That's reporting the news. Bullying would be me making fun of Apple for no reason and making Samsung commercials about people who cut notches into their hairline. That's bullying. Me saying Apple's AirTag launch exceeded and delivered significant potential for abuse that Apple did not consider or work with the standards-based companies that would have helped prevent those abuses.
Yep.
That's not bullying Apple. You're not defending a $2 trillion corporation from me pointing out how AirTags weren't launched well or weren't launched in a way that really benefited
for the amount of time that we've had them out, even try to even rectify the situation. The reality is with AirTags, again, like you said, unless you have not latest, but like a relatively recent iPhone that runs the latest software from Apple, you would have no idea if somebody's tracking you. That's the weirdest conversation that we're. This is literally what's I think getting us unhinged a little bit. It's the lack of communication that ended up putting people like us in the dark because said communication was not done the right way. And I think that's Juan's primary. At least, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the biggest thing for us. It's the privacy. It's the ability of learning things like on how things would work. Like as an iPhone user, you would be like, well, you've been traveling with the same AirTag for quite some time, but it is not set up on your network. Then you realize somebody's tracking you. And I think this is what's going to take some time for Google to try to figure out. Again, everybody's having to figure out how to make this thing work because Apple didn't necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Peppertech's point here, AirTags made it clear what was already a problem. Tiles had the same problem. Tiles did not have the same problem. Tiles are a closed network.
Yeah.
You
Tile only
have to
worked
opt in to the Tile network. You can't
on
track
opt-in.
someone to the same
Yeah.
degree with a Tile that you can with every single Find My device that is using this MFI Apple ecosystem. So we have the philosophical issue of Apple doing something anti-competitive.
Yeah.
They took Tile's business model and they did something where they never would have allowed Tile the same access to all of their users, and they gave themselves that benefit. They give to themselves what they would never have let Tile do with that kind of data.
Welcome back,
So,
my
I
friend.
mean, technically, that's correct. But now you have a location tracking network that operates at a scale. I don't know, what order of magnitude larger do we think every iOS device on the planet is compared to the number of tiles out in the
Oh,
ecosystem?
oh
So
my
your
God.
potential to track and cause the same degree of harm is not the same. And we can't, again, Michael, you seem to really want to defend Apple on this one, and I appreciate that. I think it's very important for someone to try and challenge my ideas on this. But you're equating things that cannot be equated. And you're saying that MFI is an open protocol or it's an open standard that anyone could have joined. MFI is not. MFI certification is an Apple licensing scheme to create standards that only apply to Apple products and Apple services within the Apple ecosystem. That is not a standard. That is a
No,
walled garden approach to locking in consumers to one platform.
exactly.
So every tracker technically has this problem. What tracker demonstrates that problem at a scale no other tracker can touch? So if Apple is a market leader, then Apple's responsibility is to say, before we blow this market open and deliver trackers at a scale no one else can touch, maybe we should be ahead of the problem. And Apple didn't do that. So Apple is not the market leader that they are advertising themselves to be. And Apple could have defined the future of the Bluetooth stack for trackers and location data, but they chose not to because that didn't enrich their position. It didn't make their lock-in more intense. It didn't make their products better only for their customers. And that's where I have a major problem with Apple. They are not the company they advertise themselves to be. And that is
No,
not bullying Apple. That is pointing out they had an opportunity and they passed it by because, well, I mean, it's just better if people buy newer iPhones and only use our AirTags with their newer iPhones. It even hurts Apple consumers who have older products and weren't updated to newer versions of iOS to avoid some of these issues.
no, no.
There
It's
is
it's one
no
of the biggest
parity here.
limitation. Yeah, yeah. No,
There
no, I'm with you.
is no whataboutism. There is no one else that operates at that kind of scale with that kind of consumer ecosystem. So it is not the same thing.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And I think to a certain point, I think I'm hopefully Michael is also able to see and understand the connection that he was trying to connect between the two. And you're right. MFI, Find My, and even with the new USB-C, they're going to make it MFI certified. It's not going to be a standard USB-C connection. This is
I'm
this
going
is
through
why
the
they're
website
called
right now.
why
Tell
it's
me
called the
what
walled
about
garden. No, no, no.
MFI?
I'm with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I think what it is, the biggest thing that we've always said is when we say the word walled garden, it is because of everything that Apple does is truly inclusive to its own. The reason why the AirTag calamity happened is because, as you said, they somehow decided to turn a blind eye to the concept of the fact that this is turning to be one of their most popular used device and most popular abused device, because it is so easy to be able to track somebody because of the sheer number of iPhones. Like you said,
Right.
the user base by definition surpasses any kind of, like, I can't even fathom a multiplication factor of what Tile to AirTag user base could have been. And I'll say that because I've actually used Tile. I actually tested out Tiles with Verizon. And I remember the Tile unit that they sent me for review, once it was
Yeah.
returned back to them, it was invisible to me all the way till it reached another Tile that was in
Yeah.
at the offices of where Verizon's headquarters
The
was.
immediate reaction to AirTags was so severe.
Yeah.
Tile sold their company off to another
I no no I mean
another
don't get me wrong,
brand.
like you said yourself, where when Apple doesn't allow Tile access to the same user base, that they're able to push the same business
Well,
model that they
TK,
just
I
coupled.
wonder why they didn't they just adopt this MFI certification
Why
and
didn't they just make it so that
pay
Tile can just
for
pay the
every
Tile?
single Tile tracker to be compatible
That would
with
be
Apple's network?
that would have made more
Why
money.
not just do that? They
Um,
could have just raised the price of their trackers, so their trackers would have been more expensive than AirTags, and then they would have been able to
it
use the same
is
MFI
it is the same old story
ecosystem.
of company sees something a company likes, company makes something that looks like company the thing that it likes, aka Instagram, aka Reels, aka Threads.
I'm trying to rack my brain. If the
Yeah, yeah.
argument is it's open because Bose headphones and
Oh,
Velotric electric bicycles can use it, that's not a great argument because you're talking about some of the most expensive headphones on the market, and
and
you're
bikes
talking
as
about a
well.
$2,000 e-bike.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure, you can build in the price of including MFI certification on Find My for something like that. But if you're talking about a $30 tracker,
It's a tough one. No,
there's
no,
a
I know.
reason why I feel we don't see more MFI compatible trackers. It seems like AirTags eclipse the competition for anyone who might want to use another tracking style device.
No, and yeah, no, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'll be honest. As much as I'd love to be able to continue the conversation on that, I think
Yeah,
we've
we should
kind of
probably wrap
nailed
this
it.
up.
Well, I was going to say no. That the point's been made, and I think we've made it very kind
No,
of.
my camera overheated. At some point, we should just shut up.
Yeah, no, the camera pretty much gave you all the clues. No, no, it's also because I'm literally two seconds away from like on my end as well. But I will say this: there's a lot of things obviously that we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. We have a lot of good technologies that's already out there that does a lot of it. I'm really happy that both of us got a chance to check out the Rokid station. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot more content also coming out that is going to be kind of like simpatico kind of working together on those things. We do need to set up some time so that we can get a chance to do an in-person and Rokid Air, Rokid
Oh
Station
no,
versus
I'm
in real.
putting it out there, so now everyone has to like kick our ass to actually get these
Yeah,
videos
I know, I know.
made.
Because we
But
kind of mentioned it
I'm
before. Yeah, I want to make sure.
I mean, like we could tease it. Did you want to do the glasses on your channel, and we'll do the brains on my channel? We could split it
Sure.
up that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I think that
so yeah,
works. Yeah.
tag team back again.
Yeah. And this time we're doing glasses this time and brains as opposed to
Woohoo!
because there's a lot of phones and we're both playing with foldables, but I think yearly we've done phones. This is actually a good tag. I think I like it.
Yeah,
It'll work really good for us. And
for
so yeah,
sure.
hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll work out the details, and I want to be able to get that and see how the conversation goes there. But
Yeah,
we are unfortunately almost at the end of not almost we are at the end of our show
we're
for
at the
this.
end. We're
Yeah,
closing
yeah,
this down.
we've nailed
We're
we've made up the
tired.
time that we didn't have last week. I'll say that for what it is. Last week was a very short convo because
We
I
did
was
what, like
in
40 minutes? It's
45.
like
Yeah, we
the
did it.
fastest we've
It
ever
was
had for a
absolutely the
show.
shortest time ever. But I do want to say thank you very much to everybody for hanging out with us, kicking it with us on this beautiful Thursday evening. Today is the 3rd. Yeah, August 3rd, 2023. A lot of tech conversations, a lot more things coming up. Hopefully, even more conversations next week with more things. Last bit of note: I did drop a video on the Nan Robot version, the Lightning version 3.0 e-scooter video that I dropped early this morning. That's also been something I've been working on, so check that out if you have a chance. An audio version of this podcast will be available very soon as well. Please check the links in the description below.
Yeah.
But with that being said, thank you very much. Be safe, stay cool, and stay safe. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Best of Our Week.